Chapter 37. Hey, don't you need to wear very little to practice gymnastics? Chen Guang looked at Sun Xiaoxuan, who was beside him. She was petite and didn't have a trace of fat on her body. She was really a good candidate for gymnastics. Of course, he was actually joking and teasing Sun Xiaoxuan. Sun Xiaoxuan's little face turned red and she shook her head like a rattle drum. No way! I used to wear training clothes that covered my whole body when I trained, so I wasn't exposed at all. I'm just joking. Look at how scared you are. Okay, I know you are shy, so I won't talk about gymnastics anymore. Anyway, do your best in sprinting. Chen Guang encouraged her. He remembered that on the way to the internet cafe with Wen yesterday, she seemed to have said that she also signed up for the 100-meter sprint. Thinking about it carefully, Sun Xiaoxuan was really pitiful. He hoped that she wouldn't meet Wen in the preliminaries. It would be best if Sun Xiaoxuan didn't enter the finals. With Miss Wen's monstrous physical strength, no matter who competed with her, they would not have a good ending. Well, do your best in swimming. If you don't enter the finals, I will. Sun Xiaoxuan stopped halfway through her sentence. Chen Guang stuffed a piece of meat into his mouth and said vaguely, "You will what?" Nothing. Sun Xiaoxuan stood up awkwardly and walked to the table where the other girls were sitting. Anyway, you must do your best. They have ordered, so I will go over now. Sun Xiaoxuan sat over there. Chen Guang scratched his head and thought, why is she acting so weird today? Didn't I say that participation in all the events is the most important thing? Why did she suddenly come over to ask me to do my best? She also looks like she wants to say something but is hesitant. Forget it. If she knows that I am the underwear Superman who saved Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage, I am afraid that her confidence in me will explode. Chen Guang almost slapped himself. Oh no, why did I call myself the underwear Superman? Could it be that deep in my heart, I've already tacitly accepted that scary nickname? So terrible, so terrible. Quickly eat this thought. After eating a few mouthfuls of rice, Chen Guang got up and said goodbye to the girls, then hurried away. After Chen Guang left, one of the girls asked Sun Xiaoxuan, aren't you going to tell him about your bet with Pan Jiang? Sun Xiaoxuan shook his head. No, I don't want to give him too much pressure. Besides, it's useless even if I say it, right? I heard that Pan Jiang treated a few members of the school's swimming team to dinner last night. When they came back, they had their arms around each other's shoulders. I suspect that Pan Jiang is plotting something, said a well-informed girl. Sun Xiaoxuan's heart tightened, but he said, it's fine, it's fine. It doesn't matter if we lose. It's not like I'll die if I have a meal with Pan Jiang. At most, you guys can come with me. Eat him until he's poor. You are just being nice. Pan Jiang is not a good person. You must be careful. The girls' eyes were sparkling. Chen Guang and Pan Jiang were different in the eyes of the girls in the class. If not, those girls would not push Sun Xiaoxuan to Chen Guang. Of course, everyone knew that the class president had feelings for Chen Guang. But it was a pity that Sun Xiaoxuan had a thin face, while Chen Guang was a blockhead. They're about to graduate, but there's still no movement from them. No one noticed that Pan Jiang, who happened to pass by the second floor opposite the pedestrian walkway, saw Sun Xiaoxuan sitting beside Chen Guang. Pan Jiang was so jealous when he saw Sun Xiaoxuan's shy look. I did not want to do that. Class president, you forced me to do this. Pan Jiang's eyes were flashing dangerously. He seems to have made a big decision. Dong Xuebing took out his phone and called the swimmer from the architecture faculty. Brother Dong, how is it going? Are the groups for the preliminaries ready? Pan Jiang asked. Dong Xuebing replied over the phone. Don't worry, Pan Jiang. No matter which group we are going to be in, we will still be in the finals. Aside from me, the other two juniors that are only weaker than me will be in my group. I guarantee that we'll be able to annihilate that Chen Guang you're talking about. There are only 3 spots in each group. If the 3 of us are in that group, the rest will not stand a chance. But you have to remember what you said. After this is done, you have to prepare 6,000 yuan for me. I almost spat all over the coach's face because of your under-the-table operation. Pan Jiang laughed. Brother Dong, I am relieved to hear you say this. If this is settled, you will get a lot of benefits. If there is a chance, let's go karaoke together. I know there is a good karaoke venue in the city center. You can invite those 2 students and have fun together. That will be great. When you are free, come and watch us live. We will show you what it means to crush them. Brother Dong is the swimmer from the architecture faculty. Pan Jiang had asked him to help him with this small matter, and he will get lots of benefits. That's why he agreed immediately. To Dong Xuebing, this is too easy. Swimming is a competition of strength. If you are fast, you will be fast. If you are slow, you will be slow. Unlike other sports that competed on speed, there were very few coincidences in swimming. What mattered was the absolute difference in strength. The strong and the weak were clearly distinguished. Even if there was only a slight difference, it would be extremely difficult for the weak to counterattack. That was why in the Olympic Games, there would often be dominating athletes sweeping away several gold medals. For example, in the past, Thorpe and Phelps dominated almost all the competitions when they were at their peak. Without long-term professional training, ordinary people will never be able to compete with professional swimmers. That's why Brother Dong is so confident and dares to pull the other 2 swimmers from the school's swimming team into the same group as him and Chen Guang. But Chen Guang does not care about what Pan Jiang did or what Sun Xiaoxuan is worried about. What really makes him restless is another matter. There were still 6 days until the start of the sports meet. During those 5 days, Chen Guang was on tenterhooks with every step he took. Especially when he went to the toilet, he was even more nervous, as if he was walking on thin ice. Relax. Relax. Don't think that you are taking a dump. That's right. I am acting in a movie. I am reading books. I am learning how to do business. I want to learn how to make money. I want to act in a movie. I am really not thinking about how to take a dump. That's right. This is what Dong Xuebing is afraid of. Chen Guang has deeply understood how unreasonable the Heavenly Holy Grail and the Emperor of the Azure are. The trigger condition for the world in a cup is exactly what he was thinking about. The last time was when he was playing Dota 2. Although he had trained to become the strongest player in the world, it was useless. At least there was no harm in it. Chen Guang is afraid that if he is thinking about taking a dump, sleeping in, masturbating, and so on, the test of the world in a cup appears. That would be a disaster like the end of the world. Therefore, when Chen Guang deeply understood the danger, he decided to be a positive, optimistic, and healthy person from today onwards. From the moment he opened his eyes every morning, he would hold a book called Misleading the Students. No, it should be a book that uses simple and easy-to-understand language to explain the profound principles of business. It is called Chicken Soup for the Soul, or simply Soup Soup. He read it with relish. When he arrived at the classroom, Chen Guang changed from his usual behavior of fishing for 3 days and sifting nets for 2 days. He was especially serious when he listened to the lecture, nearly blinding the eyes of his 3 roommates. It was so much so that Chen Guang even took out the foundation of film and television performance after class. Although he knew that it was useless, he couldn't think of anything more meaningful. After returning to the dormitory, Chen Guang also focused on the 3 important things in life. When he is tired, he will go out for a race car and take a short break. He kept himself in these 4 states. Then, when the realm in the cup appeared again, the best outcome would be to force the Holy Grail to give him a difficult business training or a proper bookworm training. At the very least, he would be able to teach him the basics of acting, or at the very least, he would be able to train him to be a racing god. Anything is fine, just don't give me those weird tests. The old man can't take it anymore. No, next time, I must ask the Emperor of the Azure clearly. No matter what, I have to get her to give me some specific hints before it appears. Otherwise, it will be too torturous. For example, if I know in advance that the world in a cup is coming, I can drag someone out to fight. That way, when the world in a cup appears, I can be sent to some combat training ground and become a boxing champion in minutes. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Chen Guang secretly gritted his teeth. He is really afraid that he can't take it anymore. Under such intense and painful psychological torture, time flew. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the school sports competition to officially start. Chapter 38. Sure enough, everyone in Qin Guang's class signed up for the sports meet. The news spread throughout the school before the sports meet officially started. Even the leaders of the school attached great importance to it. After confirming that everyone in the class signed up for the sports meet voluntarily, the new counselor, Zhuo Jingxi, got the commendation she wanted. The whole class also got the title of Outstanding Group of the Year. Zhuo Jingxi was overjoyed. She thought to herself that she had finally taken the first step to becoming an outstanding administrator in the school. She then announced to the class that after the sports meet, she would bring the whole class out for a feast. The whole class cheered again. Well, Qin Guang didn't care about all this. He was standing awkwardly in a corner of the swimming pool. Because everyone in the class signed up for their own events, many of them had competitions at the same time. Bai Fan and the other two bastards were not in the swimming pool. Only Qin Guang was left alone in the swimming pool. If he was really all alone, he wouldn't have felt so embarrassed. But for some reason, Sun Xiaoxuan had brought a few girls with him. The track and field event was tomorrow, and Sun Xiaoxuan and the others had nothing to do today. But why are you all here to see me? It's already embarrassing to wear such tight swimming trunks. If there are no acquaintances, I can just close my eyes and pretend that no one saw me. But your eyes are wide open like they want to swallow me. It's like a bayonet trying to cut off my flesh. The old man was very embarrassed. At this moment, a few people walked in from outside. They looked around at the entrance of the swimming pool for a while, and then went straight to Sun Xiaoxuan and the others. It was Pan Jiang. He had just led a few members of the basketball team to easily sweep their opponents in the qualifiers, and then he rushed over here. Although Pan Jiang didn't want to admit it, he knew that Sun Xiaoxuan would definitely come to the swimming pool to watch Qin Guang's competition. Therefore, Pan Jiang decided to keep an eye on Qin Guang. Not only that, but he will also stand beside Sun Xiaoxuan. After Qin Guang is tricked by Brother Dong and the other two, Pan Jiang will humiliate Qin Guang in front of Sun Xiaoxuan so that Qin Guang won't have the qualifications to be arrogant in the future. The most important thing was to settle the dinner with Sun Xiaoxuan on the spot. That's right, 2 days ago, Pan Jiang had already booked a private room at the Elegant Pavilion, the most high-end private restaurant outside the school. In this Qingya Pavilion, a simple meal for 2 or 3 people would cost at least a few thousand yuan. Seats had to be booked in advance. If they were late, even if they had the money, they wouldn't be able to get a seat. For the sake of this meal, Pan Jiang could be said to have spared no expense. The total expenses had already exceeded 10,000 yuan. Class monitor, you guys are here too? Just now, our basketball team swept the opponents 83-46. Class president, you should also commend us. You only have Qin Guang in your eyes, and it makes us feel very disappointed. Pan Jiang walked to the side of Sun Xiaoxuan and the other girls and pretended to meet them by chance. He smiled sourly and tried to get close to them. Sun Xiaoxuan and the other girls moved aside to keep a distance from Pan Jiang. Then, Sun Xiaoxuan said, "Then, I'll congratulate you guys first. I hope our basketball team can continue to work hard and achieve good results. Go for it." Sun Xiaoxuan's words were very polite, but Pan Jiang was already mentally prepared. He didn't say anything else. Instead, he stood at the side with a smile and looked at the direction of the swimming pool. His expression was full of pride. Just now, he had already made eye contact with the athletic student from the architecture department. The athletic student gave him a victory sign. On the other side, Qin Guang was preparing to take off his jacket to warm up. When he looked up and saw Pan Jiang, he frowned slightly. What is this bastard doing here? At this time, Qin Guang turned his gaze and saw Pan Jiang giving him a look. Following Pan Jiang's gaze, Qin Guang looked to the side and found that in another direction, there were 3 people gathered together to warm up. Unlike the other contestants, these 3 people's warm-up movements were exactly the same. They looked very professional. In addition, the 3 people's muscle lines were completely different from ordinary swimming enthusiasts. Qin Guang's eyebrows tightened. The ratio of the 3 people's arm spans to their height was obviously much larger than ordinary people. Their body shapes were definitely not something that ordinary sports enthusiasts could train. Combined with their warm-up movements, the identity of the 3 people was obvious. They were definitely semi-professional athletes in the school's swimming team, especially the tallest person among them. His arm span was far longer than ordinary people, and the muscles on his back were unusually strong. As he raised his arms, the obvious muscle fiber lines on the back of his waist could be seen. Is there a ghost? Chen Guang wasn't stupid. Pan Jiang wouldn't give these three people a wink for no reason. There must be a trap here. At this time, the swimming pool's broadcast began to announce the number of Chen Guang's group, reminding them to warm up and prepare for the competition. As expected, after the three people heard the broadcast, they all took a step forward to the waiting area to continue warming up. As Chen Guang walked to the waiting area, he glanced in Pan Jiang's direction again. This guy was staring at him. Their eyes met, and Pan Jiang finally tore off his disguise. He grinned sinisterly and proudly raised his eyebrows at Chen Guang. Chen Guang sneered. This is interesting. He used his connections to arrange these three majors into the same group as me. Does he want me to fail the preliminaries? Chen Guang looked to the side again. Sun Xiaoxuan was looking at him with a worried face. Thinking of the day when Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to say something, Chen Guang subconsciously felt that this matter wasn't that simple. It was most likely related to Sun Xiaoxuan. Hey, you're Chen Guang from the Environmental Science Department, right? Just as Chen Guang was about to take off his jacket, the strongest player suddenly said to him. Chen Guang had already guessed that he was related to Pan Jiang, so he wasn't surprised to be called by his name. He just glanced at him casually. I'm Chen Guang. Which Gardala did you jump out from? That person was obviously a hot-tempered person. He was angry. Chen Guang went tit for tat. Is there something wrong with your brain? I don't know you at all. Don't talk back and forth. Let me give you a piece of advice. Be careful of your mouth. Chen Guang had always been like this. If others respected him, he would respect them tenfold. This bastard had obviously received benefits from Pan Jiang and brought two other semi-professional players to mess with him. It would be strange if he had a good attitude. The other two players were about to approach Chen Guang. Chen Guang was amused. Do you want to fight? I'll keep you company. My hands are itching. Come back. The strongest player from the school team said heavily from behind, don't be fooled by him. After all, the three of us are on the school team. If we fight with him in this kind of trash competition, we'll all be disqualified. It'll be a big loss. Chen Guang, I'll let you drag us around for a while. True ability doesn't come from words. Later in the competition, I hope you don't get tricked by us twice. Otherwise, you'll be embarrassed. Chen Guang curled his lips. Did I care about you guys? Are you really stupid or are you pretending to be? Didn't you pick a fight with me first? Aren't you bored? When it came to fighting, Chen Guang was not afraid of them. When it came to talking, Chen Guang beat the three of them. The three of them wanted to provoke Chen Guang before the competition and humiliate him. Instead, they were asking to be humiliated. I can't be bothered with you guys. Without waiting for them to speak again, Chen Guang said. He took off his jacket and began to warm up. The three of them were also angry. However, Chen Guang had already made it clear that he did not want to talk to them. It was not good for them to continue pestering him. They could only secretly swear that they would teach him a lesson later. Although there were not many people in the swimming pool, there were still thousands of people in the swimming pool. Originally, Chen Guang was not used to wearing swimming trunks in front of so many people. However, after being provoked by the three of them, the anger in his heart rose. Since you guys were called by Pan Jiang to pick a fight, I'll teach you guys a lesson later. With this thought in mind, he took off his clothes quickly. When Chen Guang tossed his sportswear and pants to the back, a series of gasps resounded from the spectator stands. Especially the three school swimming teams, they were all dumbfounded. Was this guy pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Chapter 39. Chen Guang wasn't bothered by those three's gazes, but everyone was looking at him as if they were looking at a gorilla in the zoo. Chen Guang couldn't help panicking and immediately lowered his head to take a look. It scared him to death. He even thought that there was a hole in his swimming trunks. Fine, although this man looks pretty big, his swimming trunks are already so tight. Don't make a fuss, okay? Chen Guang didn't have the habit of looking at himself in the mirror. Although he knew that he had trained his body in the transient sea and that his muscles were like boards, he didn't really know what his body was like right now. It was said that the onlookers see the game more clearly than the players. When Chen Guang took off his clothes and revealed his perfect body, the crowd and the other contestants were all shocked. Unlike the swimmers from the other three schools, the three of them might be well developed, but they were more slender than ordinary swimmers. The muscles on their arms and back weren't too obvious. On the other hand, Chen Guang's muscles were intertwined with each other, forming a near-perfect sculpture. Regardless of which angle he looked at it from, it was filled with explosive power. Yet, when combined together, it wasn't bloated at all, making him look like a statue of David. In the words of a certain host, there was only one word to describe it: perfect. Oh my God! I've been in the same class as Chen Guang for 4 years. I didn't expect him to have such a good body. Even the martial arts stars on TV don't have a body like his, right? He's like a model. Class president, if you don't make your move, I'm going to be tempted. Sun Xiaoxuan's girlfriends couldn't hold back anymore. Sun Xiaoxuan was even more embarrassed. Her eyeballs were about to pierce into Chen Guang's body, and her breathing became rapid. Being teased by her girlfriends, she blushed and said shyly, Don't talk nonsense. She couldn't even speak fluently. Damn it, this is a swimming competition, not a bodybuilding competition. Having a good body doesn't mean you can swim fast. The athletic athlete of the architecture department secretly gritted his teeth, but he did not dare to provoke him again. Obviously, Chen Guang was not a soft persimmon. He had a hot temper and seemed to be able to fight. If they really fought, even if they had 3 people on their side, they might not be able to gain much of an advantage. Now, the 13th group, please get ready. The first one is student Chen Guang from the School of Architecture and Environment. The second one is student Dong Tao from the School of Architecture and Environment. The third one is... The broadcast in the swimming hall began to read the names of the contestants in Chen Guang's group one by one. At first, the onlookers didn't think there was anything wrong, but when the 8 names were read, someone found something wrong. Those who were more familiar with the school's swimming team immediately made a ruckus. What the hell? 3 members of the school team in one group? Can't you let other people play? Exactly. There are only 3 places in the preliminary. 3 of them are in the same group. Isn't that too much? What about the others? At first, this topic was only spread in a small circle, but the students were the most active group. Seeing the lively discussion, the people next to them naturally asked what was going on. It didn't take long for the thousands of people present to know that something was wrong. For a moment, the huge swimming hall was buzzing with discussions. The crowd from time to time gave the other contestants who were about to step on the stage with deep sympathy. Even Chen Guang, who had a good body and caused a commotion, was not spared. After all, swimming and bodybuilding were not the same events. Only the other 4 innocent, ordinary contestants in Chen Guang's group knew nothing. They just felt uncomfortable being pointed at by the people in the stands. Pan Jiang, you did this, right? In the corner of the stands, Sun Xiaoxuan was already glaring at Pan Jiang angrily. No wonder you bet with me that Chen Guang couldn't pass the preliminary. I really didn't expect. Hey, don't be like that. Pan Jiang pretended to be innocent. You can't blame it on me. Their groupings were decided by drawing lots. So what ability do I have to put the 3 of them in the same group as Chen Guang? Isn't this a coincidence? Xiaoxuan, let's ignore him. Even if Chen Guang was put in the same group as the 3 school teams, it's not like he's going to lose. Chen Guang's body is much better than those 3. I like Chen Guang. Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend next to her began to be infatuated. Sun Xiaoxuan actually didn't know much about swimming, but since Pan Jiang refused to admit it, she had no choice but to choose to believe in Chen Guang. Pan Jiang cursed in his mind, You guys know nothing. What's the use of having a good body? Just wait and see Chen Guang get lapped. Pan Jiang leaned against the fence of the stands and looked at Chen Guang with disdain. He didn't think the 3 school teams would lose at all. At that moment, the person who was the most furious was the head coach of the school swimming team. Although he didn't have much hope in finding some good seedlings in the school sports, the head coach still came. Finding new seedlings was one thing, and checking the condition of the swimmers on the team was another. As the head coach of the swimming team, he was in charge of organizing teams for the school sports day, but he didn't handle it himself. Instead, he let his assistant handle it. He didn't know that the 3 members of his team had been grouped into one group. What are these people doing? Even if you guys want to compete with each other, you should compete in the finals. What will the other students think if you guys are in the same group? The head coach walked up to the 3 school teams angrily and stared at them deeply. What's going on? You guys better tell me. Dong Tao, you tell me. The head coach targeted the athlete who got the certificate. Coach, it's really a coincidence. We went to ask later, but the groups were already like this, so we couldn't just change them. Actually, it's not that bad. We're the ones competing in the finals anyway, so it's fine. Although the head coach had a lot of authority on the swimming team, Dong Tao was considered half a national athlete now, so he wasn't afraid of him. But the 3 of you took up all the spots in the preliminary group, so it's not good. The head coach couldn't do anything to Dong Tao. We were all in the same group by drawing lots, so there's nothing bad about it. We are all school teams, so it's normal for us to win. Plus, even if the normal students can make it to the semifinals, they're just there to keep the prince company. It's not a big deal, Dong Tao said with a smile. Forget it. I hope the 3 of you can make the swimming team proud, or at least show an absolute lead. Otherwise, people will look down on the swimming team. The head coach knew that there was nothing he could do to change the situation, so he could only give the order. Coach, don't worry. We promise we'll be at least 100 meters ahead of the 4th place finisher. We'll make them speechless. Another boy from the school team laughed. Dong Tao nodded. That's right. We'll show them the difference between professionals and amateurs. Chen Guang couldn't help but laugh when he heard what they said. Chapter 40. What are you laughing at? Dong Tao was annoyed. Chen Guang moved his body a little to stretch his ligaments. He stepped onto the diving platform and said, Nothing. I just think you guys are very interesting. Who is this student? The coach of the school team had noticed Chen Guang a long time ago. Although he also felt that this student had the physique of an athlete, his point of view was obviously the same as Dong Tao and the other 2. Swimming was not only about the physique. I'm just a nobody. Coach, don't mind me. You have 3 good students, Chen Guang said meaningfully. The coach didn't quite understand what he meant. He turned around and looked at Dong Tao and the others who were about to step onto the diving platform. Coach, don't mind him. He's just a clown. We'll teach him to be a good person. Of course, in the competition, Dong Tao was guilty, so he couldn't say too much. However, he couldn't admit defeat to Chen Guang. The coach was stunned. He felt that there was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air. When he turned around to look at Chen Guang had already ignored Dong Tao and the others. He was ready to jump. Look at his posture. It's not right at all. He's an amateur, Dong Tao said with a smile. Indeed, compared with the postures of Dong Tao and the other 2, the postures of the other 5, including Chen Guang, were not very professional. Chen Guang stared at the front of the lane without blinking. His face was expressionless, but he was a little angry inside. You guys can jump all you want now, but I'll give you a big surprise when you get into the water. If Dong Tao knew that because of his provocation, Chen Guang, who originally planned to swim casually, decided to go all out, he would probably regret it. However, he didn't know how serious the consequences would be. On the contrary, he had already begun to imagine the scene of him sneering at the reckless Chen Guang after he reached the finish line. Dong Tao was not the only one who didn't think highly of Chen Guang. In fact, among the thousands of people in the swimming complex, none of them thought highly of Chen Guang. Even Sun Xiaoxuan, who had inexplicable confidence in Chen Guang, was clenching his fists nervously. He looked at Chen Guang, who had already arched his body on the platform, and prayed inwardly, no matter what, Chen Guang, don't lose too badly. Class leader, you have to remember what we agreed on. Pan Jiang knew he was being disliked, but he didn't care. All he wanted was to bring Sun Xiaoxuan to the elegant pavilion's dining table. Needless to say, the ordinary audience members were all sighing for the pitiful young Chen Guang. On the other hand, there were many female audience members who were interested in Chen Guang because of his perfect figure, and they secretly felt indignant for him. The people from the school team are too much. They put 3 people in the same group as the handsome bodybuilder. Isn't this bullying? That's right. But even if the handsome bodybuilder loses, I will still be his fan. His figure is first class. By the way, I heard that he is level 17 from the Building Loop Academy. Should we go back and look for him? Yes. He met 3 school teams in a swimming competition. He must be in a bad mood after losing. Maybe we can take advantage of this? Not us. It's me. It's me. You are really shameless. Hi, you are not any better. Regardless of what others thought at this time, Chen Guang was already staring at the front, waiting for the starting gun to sound. Finally, as the referee pulled the trigger, the 8 people on the swimming lane fiercely jumped into the swimming pool. After all, Dong Tao and the other 2 people had gone through many years of training. The sound of the starting gun had almost become a conditioned reflex. From their jumping speed, it could be seen that the 3 of them were indeed a lot stronger than the others. Only Chen Guang's jumping speed was slightly slower than the 3 of them. The other 4 people were even worse. Dong Tao and the other 2 people's palms were already pressed on the surface of the water. When Chen Guang's body was in the air, the 3 of them were barely able to jump up from the diving platform. Chen Guang swam in the transient sea. As for the posture of entering the water, he had never practiced it before. In the 400-meter freestyle, which was a competition of speed, the posture of entering the water was very important. It could allow the swimmer to win at the beginning and establish a sufficient advantage in the early stage. Unfortunately, only after a long period of training could the posture of entering the water become more scientific and reasonable. It could allow the swimmer to obtain the fastest speed and the best angle of entering the water. Although Chen Guang was good at swimming, he had never practiced how to enter the water. Naturally, this posture was a bit of a matter of course. Compared to Dong Tao and the other 2, Chen Guang's posture of entering the water was ugly. It was almost like a fly swatter hitting the surface of the water. With a splat sound, the onlookers felt their teeth ache. Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't help but scream. It looked really painful. Fortunately, Chen Guang didn't directly knock him out. The other 4 people's movements weren't as exaggerated as Chen Guang's. Although they weren't professionals, since they had signed up for this competition, they had practiced hard for a period of time. On average, they had practiced for several hours every day. Although they didn't have professional guidance, they had studied the competition videos online for a few days. Although they weren't professionals, they had at least gotten the hang of it. With the other 7 people as a comparison, Chen Guang's unsightly posture of entering the water made the hearts of the onlookers, who had a little bit of hope in him, the Mr. Bodybuilder, instantly go cold. This bro is a spearhead made of silver. Looks good, but no use. Don't say that. If it were someone with a weaker physique, he would definitely flip over like a dead fish when he hit the surface of the water. So resistance is also a skill. Isn't that obvious? But it doesn't seem like this bro's resistance is of any use. Swimming really has nothing to do with one's physique. How tragic. He's already so far behind in the water. The onlookers could see that Chen Guang was in an awkward situation. The head coach of the school's swimming team, who was watching from the side of the pool, understood even more. He almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. He represented the school's official attitude. If he laughed at a contestant in public, it wouldn't be good for the school's image. How awkward. Is this student here to be funny? I thought he had some skill when I saw him arguing with Dong Tao just now. Although the head coach of the swimming team had taught Dong Tao and the others a lesson, deep down he still didn't want to see the 3 of them lose to any amateur. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for the swimming team. This guy said he was coming to swim. He was full of confidence. I thought he was really aiming for the championship. I didn't expect this guy to have such a good physique under the surface. When did he train behind my back? That scared the hell out of me. At the top corner of the swimming stadium stands, a pair of beautiful eyes were quietly staring at Chen Guang, who was in the first lane. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That really hurts. That's right. This person was Wenwen, whose competition was also tomorrow. The Missy had nothing to do today, and she wasn't the least bit interested in the competition of the others in class. Thinking that Qin Guang was finally going to have his swimsuit debut, she came over to watch the spectacle. At that moment, a slightly shrill shout suddenly came from the front row. Qin Guang, come on. Wenwen looked in the direction of the voice, and her eyes couldn't help but become quite playful. The first person to shout for Qin Guang was Sun Xiaoxuan. At this moment, this somewhat bashful Jiangnan Water Village girl brought out a great deal of courage and somewhat recklessly yelled out. As soon as the shout came out, many people who were staring at the swimming pool also looked at her. Sun Xiaoxuan's face immediately reddened under everyone's gazes, and her voice came to a screeching halt. But after a brief moment of silence, she puffed up her cheeks and raised her hands in front of her mouth like a trumpet. She shouted again, louder and more impassioned than before. With Sun Xiaoxuan taking the lead, several of her girlfriends next to her also shouted together. These young and beautiful girls took the lead to cheer for the contestants. Sun Xiaoxuan, a very beautiful girl, was also among them. Suddenly, they became a beautiful scene in the swimming stadium. Perhaps out of sympathy for the weak, in the huge swimming stadium, Qin Guang's name came out one after another from various places. Surprisingly, most of the voices were of girls, which was not surprising. Who asked Qin Guang to rely on his good figure to attract attention before the competition, and his posture in the water instantly showed the aura of a weak person. Wenwen's eyes became a little sharp in an instant. She thought to herself, this is the beautiful class monitor Sun Xiaoxuan that by Nyangzi and the others yelled at on the phone the other day, right? Interesting. But you definitely don't know that Qin Guang never goes swimming, right? Cheering is useless. Qin Guang, who was already lagging behind because of his terrible diving into the water, heard Sun Xiaoxuan's cheers, and his whole body quivered. I'm already very embarrassed in my underwear, and you guys are shouting the old man's name in the whole stadium. The old man really can't get his blood boiling. I really want to dive into the water and never get up again. Qin Guang felt very embarrassed. Just when he was delayed, the other 4 contestants who took off slower than him had surpassed him one after another, and Dong Tao and the other 2 had already swum several meters away, leaving him completely behind. So miserable, he was left behind by 2 body lengths at the beginning. This handsome guy's heart is going to break, right? Many compassionate girls' eyes were almost filled with tears. That's right, Qin Guang's heart was broken, so he clenched his teeth and made up his mind. F***ck, since I've already lost face to this extent, I don't care about anything else, just swim. Panjiang, just you wait, I'm going to give you a big surprise right now. Chapter 41. Taking a deep breath, Qin Guang finally began to exert his strength. As his right palm slapped hard on the surface of the water, he suddenly sprang forward a long distance. The onlookers didn't see anything strange from this, and they still sympathized with Qin Guang, the tragic bodybuilder. However, Sun Xiaoxuan and the others were stimulated by Qin Guang's action, and their cheers became louder and louder. The 4 people's cheers made the other girls, who had been cheering for a while, keep up with the rhythm. Humans were always herd creatures. When someone took the lead to do something, and it didn't cause conflict, there would be no lack of followers. Therefore, only the 4 words, come on, Qin Guang, kept ringing in the empty swimming pool, and gradually, more and more people joined the ranks. Pan Jiang was so angry that his teeth itched, and his face was so dark that a layer of ash could be scraped off from the bottom of a pot. He had worked hard to arrange Dong Tao and the others to be in the same group as Qin Guang, but now he had helped Qin Guang to gain popularity? What's the use of having more people cheering for you? Do you think you can turn the world upside down? Pan Jiang curled his lips in disdain and looked at the swimming lane again with dissatisfaction. What? Something's wrong. He's really going to turn the world upside down. Nobody knew when, but the cheers gradually stopped, because people suddenly realized that the bodybuilder, Qin Guang, didn't seem to need cheering at all. He was just fooling around with everyone. As Chen Guang really began to accelerate, his momentum immediately changed. He sprang forward like a torpedo, and before the first turn of the 50-meter swimming pool was completed, he had already surpassed the other 4 players. At this time, Dong Tao and the others were about 1.5 body lengths ahead of him, but before he began to exert his strength, the gap had already widened to 2 body lengths. The head coach beside the swimming pool was a person who really knew the ropes. The explosive power that Chen Guang showed in the last half of the first turn of the 50-meter swimming pool had already made his eyes shine. This young man has real skills. This short-distance sprinting ability was really not just for show. It didn't matter even if he lost to Dong Tao in the 400m. He could still do well in the 100m race. Not bad, a good seedling. After all, there were still the majority of the audience present. No one could see so many clues from Chen Guang's outburst just now. They still felt that Chen Guang's disadvantage was still very obvious. Even the head coach himself, who already thought that Chen Guang was very talented, still did not think that he could defeat Dong Tao. After all, this was a 400-meter race. It required more than just explosive power. After a short burst of power, it was very likely that one would quickly lose strength. The head coach believed that in the next 350 meters, the gap between this young man named Chen Guang and Dong Tao and the other 2, who had undergone professional training, would gradually widen. Even if he could rely on risking his life to catch up to Dong Tao in the next round, he wouldn't be able to last forever. However, the most surprised person was not them, but Wen, who was standing high up in the stands. About a year ago, she had forcibly dragged Chen Guang, a non-swimmer, to the city's swimming pool. At that time, she had worked herself to the bone to train Chen Guang for most of the day. Chen Guang had only barely mastered the most basic doggy paddle, and could only last a few meters at most. In the process of teaching him how to swim, this guy had taken advantage of her in a flurry. After that, he had been very conflicted. He wanted to continue taking advantage of her and come to the pool again, but he was also terrified of being drunk. In the end, he still lost to his fear of water. From then on, he never talked about swimming again. After all, he had gained a few kilograms in just one afternoon. That's right, it was purely for drinking. But today, not only did this guy participate in the race, he was like a fish returning to the sea after entering the water. Wen, who had the most unique insight, had already noticed that Chen Guang was different from other swimmers. Even a top semi-professional like Dong Tao felt like he was fighting with water in the water, let alone other people. But what about Chen Guang? From the first time he slapped the water, he gave Wen a feeling that he seemed to be enjoying the feeling of swimming in the water. As his powerful arms slapped down, the water seemed to listen to his command. His 2 calves vibrated at a high frequency, almost turning into a small electric motor. Wen couldn't help but ask herself in her heart, was this still the same Chen Guang who was afraid of water like a tiger, the cowardly pervert who couldn't even bear to take advantage of the prettiest girl in school? This was simply a torpedo. As for the current Chen Guang, Wen thought about it and finally found a more appropriate term to describe him. On the other side, Chen Guang turned around, bent his legs, and fiercely kicked the wall of the pool, fiercely leaping forward. When he resurfaced, he was only 1 body's length away from the last member of Dong Tao's team of 3. Oh my god! So fast. So strong. The head coach felt like he was about to stop breathing, but he was secretly worried about Chen Guang. Little bro, the 400 meters has just begun, don't waste your energy so extravagantly. As long as you use your energy reasonably, maybe you really have a chance to fight for the top 3. The others didn't understand so much. They only saw that Chen Guang was constantly closing the gap between him and the first group. The originally quiet crowd gradually became excited again. 2 meters. 5 meters. 1 meter. Chen Guang was getting closer and closer to the last member of the first group. The swimming complex once again began to ring Chen Guang's name. This time, it was not because they sympathized with the weak, but because they were really cheering for him. He was not a member of the school team. He was just an ordinary university student like everyone else. This kind of counterattack from the weak was the easiest to make people's blood boil. As for the more emotional girls, There was no need to say more. Sun Xiaoxuan smiled. She felt that the current Qin Guang was simply too cool. Even if he lost in the end, she would definitely be moved by his short struggle. Qin Guang didn't care so much. The last time he saved someone, his heart was in a panic, and his mind was only thinking about saving people. Plus, he was wearing briefs, so he didn't feel comfortable swimming. Today, however, he was in a clear swimming pool, and he was wearing high-quality swimming trunks. He didn't have to worry about being exposed, so he didn't have any distracting thoughts in his mind. He just wanted to pursue a faster speed. He felt like he was back in the transient sea, and he recalled the carefree feeling of wandering on the sea like a fish in water. That's right, for faster, faster. This water is so beautiful, so intimate, as if it wants to send me straight to the sky. I seem to have returned to that wonderful moment when I swam the fastest in my life. Actually it wasn't wonderful. If I remember correctly, at that time, the Royal was fighting with the enemy ship, and I fell into the water with 7 or 8 enemies. Then, we were chased by the sea beasts from the bottom of the sea after smelling the blood. Of course, Qin Guang survived in the end. He didn't swim past the sea beasts, but he swam a little faster than the other 7 or 8 enemies. The sea beasts with average teeth just happened to be full and didn't want to eat him anymore. In short, I can't compete with sea beasts, but I'm really not afraid of competing with people. Chapter 42. Finally, when they were about to reach the starting point, which was a total of 100 meters, Qin Guang caught up with the last person in Dong Tao's team of 3. This person did not even consider that he might be caught up. While he was taking a breath, he saw Qin Guang pass by him from the corner of his eye and dash forward. He shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. After taking a closer look, he finally believed the terrifying truth. He was really caught up. *CK. Are you kidding me? How is this possible? I'm a professional. Unfortunately, for swimmers, the pool was both gentle and cruel. Just because you don't believe in tears, it won't make you faster. He could only watch as Qin Guang caught up with him bit by bit. Gradually, the two of them were parallel to each other. Then, he was pulled away by an arm's length. It's over. I'm half a body's length behind. Oh my God. At that moment, the 400-meter freestyle race had already passed 100 meters. Qin Guang was still maintaining his high speed. From the start of his sprint until now, his speed had not decreased at all. When he overtook the third person, his target took another step forward, heading towards the second place. Dong Tao was still slightly ahead. Putting his character aside, he was able to obtain the athlete certification as a semi-professional swimmer, which meant that he was definitely not an ordinary person. The certification required him to be able to swim the 400-meter freestyle race in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. There was no room for falsehood. At that moment, Dong Tao was still ahead of the others. He was about 2 body lengths ahead of the second person, and 3 body lengths ahead of Qin Guang. Dong Tao didn't care about what was happening behind him, because he knew that in this kind of competition, he didn't need to care about others at all. He just needed to do his usual training, swim at his own pace, and swim steadily to the 300m. Then, in the last 2 turns of the 100m, he could easily stabilize his time at around 4 minutes 20 seconds. Although this standard might not be considered much in an international or national competition, it was more than enough to dominate an intramural sports meet. Even the other 2 teammates on the school team could only swim for 4 minutes and 20 seconds if they used all their strength. Swimming was a competition of strength. There were no random factors that could affect the outcome of the competition. Up until now, the entire race had been under Dong Tao's control. He had not even used his full strength, and he was already 2 body lengths ahead of his teammate. Qin Guang, that kid, must be even further behind. If he said he would set him up for 2 laps, then he would do it. Those who had not undergone systematic training would not be able to swim more than 200 meters, let alone 400 meters. They would be like a dead fish drifting. What Dong Tao didn't know was that his second teammate wasn't feeling well at that moment. He was on the 3rd path, while Qin Guang was on the 1st. As soon as Qin Guang caught up, he sensed that something was wrong. The fact that the three of them were placed in the same group in the preliminary round was enough to cause a sensation. If they were overtaken by an amateur, then wouldn't they become the laughingstock of the entire school? How would they be able to raise their heads in the future? I'm going to sprint. It wasn't just him. The third place that had been overtaken by Qin Guang no longer remembered his usual training rhythm. He clenched his teeth and began to exert his strength with all his might. I'll let you be proud for a while longer. We've gone through professional training, and we swim tens of thousands of meters every day. I don't believe it. No matter how strong your explosive strength is, there's no reason you can still persist in the second half of the race. The head coach by the pool was also having a headache from the actions of these people. He had come here to see the true standard of these people. If they were like this in the first half of the race, they would definitely be exhausted in the second half of the race, and their results would definitely be worse than their usual results. Even though the kid named Qin Guang was swimming very fast now, and he was also speeding up with the other two, once he finished the turn, the other two would naturally slow down as well. What do you two think are going on in your heads? Qin Guang hasn't gone through any training, so he doesn't know how to allocate his strength. You two have been professionally trained under me for 2 years, yet you're still acting like this. Aren't you embarrassing me? The audience at the side of the pool didn't know what the head coach was thinking. They only saw that Qin Guang had not only overtaken the third-place swimmer, but had also started to catch up with the second-place swimmer. What's more, as the three of them accelerated at the same time, the distance between them and Dong Tao, who was still conserving his strength, gradually shortened. Unlike the others, Dong Tao was a celebrity among the school's swimming enthusiasts. He was a certified athlete, and if nothing went wrong, he would even enter the provincial team this year and become a well-known swimmer who would represent the provincial team in the national games. The waves from the pool were getting higher and higher, and gradually, the emotions of the audience were stirred up. Cheers rose and fell crazily from the swimming pool, and gradually condensed into one, resounding throughout the entire swimming pool. As Dong Tao calmly swung his arms, paddled, and swung his legs, he vaguely heard the voices from the outside world. He thought disdainfully, these people are really ignorant. I haven't even exerted my strength yet, why are you so excited? Can people swim faster just by adding more strength? Can Qin Guang counterattack? Are you kidding me? Wait a little longer, I'm almost 200 meters now. Wait for another 100 meters, then I'll accelerate again, and show you the strength of the national top swimmer. Not far ahead was the pool wall. Dong Tao skillfully swung his hands at the same time and dove down. Just like the countless times he had turned around by stepping on the wall, he looked left and right leisurely in the water. As usual, the other lanes were empty, and no one could turn around at the same time as him. Alas, being invincible is always lonely. Dong Tao felt a little proud. He had dominated the swimming world of Gokyo University for 3 whole years, and only when he went to the provincial team for training could he feel some pressure from the professional swimmers there. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, a pair of hands suddenly appeared in the lane next to him, and then the whole body of the person was reflected in Dong Tao's eyes. Dong Tao's pupils shrank. Did I see it wrong? What is this? Could it be that I've already circled him twice? Now that I think about it, it's already 200 meters, and I've already looped him for a full 100 meters? Although it's a little unscientific, it's not completely impossible. I really didn't expect that kid to be so weak. Sometimes, being overconfident is really a sad thing to hear. That's right. Qin Guang had actually caught up to Dong Tao. When Dong Tao completed this turn, Qin Guang had already put both his legs on the pool wall, exerted his strength, and shot out, closely catching up to Dong Tao's pace. After Qin Guang, Dong Tao's 2 teammates, who were slightly weaker than him, followed closely behind. One in front, one behind, they kept up with Qin Guang. Dong Tao was now only half a body's length ahead of Qin Guang. Only then did he notice the situation of his other 2 teammates, and his heart trembled. Something is wrong. What? The 2 of them also turned around at this time? Don't tell me. Qin Guang has caught up. Dong Tao was stunned at first, and even his slapping motion was half a beat slower. Chapter 43. Dong Tao, what are you doing? Why are you in a daze? He is catching up with you. If you lose today, from tomorrow on, your daily training schedule will be increased to 30,000 meters. The head coach was watching from the side of the pool, feeling a little anxious. Dong Tao was good at everything and he was talented, but his attitude in competitions disappointed him. He was never serious enough. If he really lost today, he would lose all his dignity as the head coach of the swimming team. Hearing the head coach's loud reprimand, Dong Tao shuddered. Although he found it hard to believe, he knew that things were not going well. He pulled himself together and gave it his all. As Dong Tao began to speed up, the competition in the pool suddenly became white-hot. Damn it! How can I be surpassed by him? This is unacceptable. Asshole! Thousands of thoughts flashed through Dong Tao's mind, but he also knew that he had no other choice. He had to quickly gather his thoughts and get rid of those meaningless thoughts. He had to stop thinking about using his trained physical strength to widen the gap between him and Chen Guang. He had to speed up now. He didn't want to be caught up by Chen Guang. He didn't want to be neck and neck with Chen Guang. He couldn't accept it even for 1 second. The first group of Chen Guang, Dong Tao, and the other two were getting further and further away from the second group. But what made Dong Tao and the other two desperate was that no matter how hard they tried, they still couldn't get rid of Chen Guang. Not only that, when they were about to swim 300 meters, Chen Guang finally caught up with Dong Tao for the first time. The pupils of the head coach shrank, and he was shocked. He thought to himself, I didn't expect him to maintain such a high speed until now, and even catch up with Dong Tao. But for a non-professional athlete, this must be his limit, right? Even Dong Tao and the other two were starting to show signs of fatigue. When Chen Guang turned around and entered the final stretch of the 300 meters, he would definitely slow down because of his physical exhaustion. Chen Guang, you are really talented. Even if you lose today, you will only lose because you haven't received professional training. It's a glorious defeat. The head coach was not the only one who thought this way. Dong Tao and the other two had the same idea. Although their physical condition had declined due to the early outburst, they were, after all, semi-professional athletes who had been through years of training. They could still slightly accelerate in the last 100 meters and show their true sprinting state. It was time to widen the gap between them. Although it was a pity that he couldn't trick him, the feeling of giving him hope and then making him despair was actually not bad. With this in mind, Dong Tao increased his strength in slapping the water, and sure enough, his speed became faster. He turned his head to the right and saw that his other two teammates had already begun to sprint. Despair. Dong Tao laughed maniacally in his heart. At this moment, a wave suddenly came from the neighboring lane and hit his temple. What? Dong Tao was at a loss at first, but then he realized what it meant. Chen Guang had surpassed him? When he took a breath, he raised his head a little bit more to see the situation in the neighboring lane clearly. Unfortunately, all he could see was a pair of Chen Guang's feet. When he took another breath, Dong Tao looked to the side again. This time, even Chen Guang's feet were in front of him. What is this? My God! My God! Chen Guang has surpassed Dong Tao. He overtook him in the second half of the race. Aren't Dong Tao and the others professionals? How could Chen Guang have surpassed them? I don't understand. What's so strange about it? Dong Tao and the others are in the school swimming team, but they are just for show. God knows how he got his sports master certificate. Don't tell me he got it with money? What a shame. But it's understandable that this kind of thing happened in our country. Can't you two just shut up? Don't you know how to look at the timer? It's only been 3 minutes. If Dong Tao maintains the speed, he will definitely take around 4 minutes to finish the race. This is the standard of a 400-meter freestyle athlete. The spectators couldn't stand the discussion between the two amateurs and reprimanded them. But now, Chen Guang is in the lead. If Dong Tao is a sports master, then what is Chen Guang's level? How long do you think Chen Guang can swim? The knowledgeable student was stunned. F***CK. What's wrong? What's wrong? The two of them were shocked. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of it. Where did Chen Guang come from? There's no reason. This doesn't make sense. What's wrong? Tell us, bro. Can you not leave us hanging? Let me tell you. This Chen Guang, if he can swim in 3 minutes and 52 seconds, he will be a national athlete, the top kind. He might even have the chance to represent our country in an international competition. Are you serious? Isn't that too scary? The timer board clearly shows the time. How can it be fake? The man also had a shocked expression on his face. No one could understand the despair in Dong Tao's heart. He had used all his strength, and he felt that he had never given it his all. But the figure in the lane beside him was still moving further and further away. He was the athlete of the school team who trained hard in the pool every day. Chen Guang was just an unremarkable kid from the environmental science department of the same school. But why was this the result? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Dong Tao roared and snarled, the veins on his arms bulging. He even ignored the fact that his stamina had actually dropped by a lot, and also ignored the fact that his 2 calves were already giving off a warning of tearing due to overwork. He did not want to lose. I am the king of the Gokyo University swimming team. I am the rising star of the swimming world in Dachuan province. How can I lose to a nobody like Chen Guang? Tao, I have never seen a kid swim as fast as you. Practice swimming, and you will have the chance to become an Olympic champion in the future. Dong Tao, you are a genius. You are the little genius of our Jiangho swimming school. Sooner or later, you will dominate the whole country. Train well, and sooner or later, you will be on the podium of the Olympic Games like Sun Yang. Tao, you're already a junior this year. You've fallen behind a lot in your studies, but it doesn't matter. I've already talked to the school leaders. Train well, and the national team coach will come to inspect you in a while. With your ability and talent, you'll definitely make it to the national team. As long as you can achieve good results in international competitions, the school will solve your graduation problem. You will be the pride of our family and school. Ever since he was a child, everyone Dong Tao knew repeated the same thing. Dong Tao, you are a genius. Sooner or later, you will become a dazzling star in the international swimming world. At this moment, every time Dong Tao slacked off, this phrase would appear in his mind, but it became a stinging mockery and ridicule. He was not willing to give up. He could no longer feel fatigue, nor could he feel pain. He only knew that he had to keep burning the energy in his body. He did not want to lose, he wanted to be faster. The faster, the better. But it was useless. The distance between him and Chen Guang was constantly being pulled apart. Sorry, you are too slow. At this moment, a cold snort came from the next lane. Dong Tao was stunned. Oh my God. He had actually turned around and swam the last 50 meters. Immediately, Dong Tao raised his hands like a machine and entered the water. He had also completed the last turn. But when he emerged from the water again, he could only see the water in front of him gradually moving further and further away. His heart was cold. It's over. It's all over. An emotion called despair completely swallowed him up. This was the last 100 meters of despair. Chapter 44. The head coach of the school team looked at the scene and felt weak all over. He thought to himself, is Chen Guang a monster? He has already sprinted for 200 meters. He should be exhausted by now, right? But why is he able to go even faster in the last 100 meters? The experienced head coach was dumbfounded, and the audience was even more dumbfounded. Sun Xiaoxuan gripped the railing tightly with both hands. Her knuckles turned white because of the excessive force. She was so excited that her face was flushed and her breathing almost stopped. It was as if she was the one competing. On the other hand, Pan Zhang's face was ashen. He had paid such a huge price just to get Chen Guang out of the preliminaries. He had bribed his way up and down to get 3 members of the school team to be in the same group as him. Initially, he thought that it was a done deal. But now, Chen Guang actually pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. He even defeated Dong Tao. This guy hid his strength well. This fellow, you're really something. He's become a monster. Wen, who was far away at the top of the stands, also leaned against the wall. She didn't expect that she, who had seen so much, would be so excited watching a swimming competition. Although the person competing was Chen Guang, and she was worried about him, She originally just wanted to see Chen Guang embarrass himself. She didn't expect the final result to be like this. Little one, I've already told you that Chen Guang isn't simple. He's not what he looks like on the surface. You have to be careful of him. Nobody knew when second uncle Wen appeared behind Wen. Second uncle, I know him better than you. I know he has been a little strange these days, but he is still the same person. Don't interfere with my business. At least, I am still free before I graduate from university. Wen said without turning her head. Anyway, you have to remember your identity. You should keep your distance from Chen Guang. Second uncle, don't talk about this. Alright, is there any news about the thing I asked you to investigate for me? I feel that there is something behind the food poisoning at Chen Guang's hot pot restaurant. Second uncle Wen was silent for a while before he said, I sent people to investigate for a long time and found something strange. Wen frowned. What's strange? After the poisoning, the police and the hospital kept a lot of serum and body tissues of the victims. But when our people arrived, they found that all the preserved evidence had disappeared into thin air. In addition, our people visited dozens of families of the victims and found that most of the victims have recovered. None of them were left with permanent injuries. I even asked someone to pay for some of the victims to go to the hospital for another checkup. I even took some blood samples from them. The results of the test. What about the test results? Wen frowned. Second uncle, don't keep me guessing. You know I care a lot about this. Second uncle swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, all the test results show that these people are no different from normal people. There's no sign of them being poisoned at all. But at that time, weren't the symptoms of poisoning extremely serious? Many of them were even diagnosed to be permanently disabled. Is there something wrong with those medical reports? Wen asked again. That's why I said something was strange. However, I can't find any more information. It seems that all traces have been erased, second uncle Wen said with a bitter smile. Alright, I understand. Thank you, second uncle. Wen didn't say anything else and fell silent. Second uncle sighed slightly. You're on your own now. I'm tired of hiding you. After saying that, the second uncle leaped off the edge of the swimming pool and disappeared into the forest. Wen frowned and muttered to herself, what's going on? Who could have done it? Why did he do that? Why do you want to erase all traces? Second uncle didn't seem to have said everything. Was he afraid that I would know something? The way he handled things and the traces were a little familiar. Could it be? But Chen Guang had nothing to do with those people. There was no reason for him to be involved in those people's fight, right? Damn it. It had been so long, and all the evidence had been erased. Even if she wanted to investigate, there was nothing she could find. Alas, if it wasn't for the fear of her father finding out that she had a close relationship with an ordinary boy at school, Wen really wanted to secretly pay those families who were still waiting for compensation from Chen Guang's father. However, she knew that she couldn't do that. Now that second uncle was covering for her, her family didn't know what she had done at Gokyo University. If she used money, sooner or later, the truth would be revealed. When that time came, she was afraid that Chen Guang would be killed. The human heart was really scary. Those so-called victims were obviously all alive and kicking, but none of the families were willing to stand up and tell Chen Guang and his father that they had recovered and didn't need compensation. They had the court's verdict in their hands, and it was reasonable and well-founded. They couldn't bear to part with the fat meat that was already in their mouths, even if the so-called fat meat was blood drawn from a family that was already emaciated. Chen Guang and his parents were really in trouble. Wen quietly turned around and left. There was no need to continue watching this swimming competition. When she got back, she had to interrogate this guy properly. Where did he go to learn such frightening swimming skills? He even dared to hide it from her. He really didn't want to stay in this world anymore. On the other side, Chen Guang had already touched the sensor at the finish line. He leisurely turned around and saw that Pan Jiang was late. On the scoreboard, Chen Guang's time was fixed at 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Dong Tao fiercely slapped the sensor, wishing that he could vent his hatred on it. Today, he had actually broken his long-standing record of 3 minutes and 59 seconds. This was the first time he had swum under 4 minutes. However, there were gains and losses. As soon as he retracted his right hand, he felt an intense tearing pain from his shoulder and right calf, causing him to grit his teeth in pain. His heart skipped a beat. Oh no, I pulled my muscle too hard. The other 6 arrived one after another, but they were even more behind. The soy sauce quartet had even pulled away by almost 100 meters. Who knew if it would leave an indelible shadow in their hearts when they went back? It was just a preliminary competition, but he had swum a national record. The spectators on the side of the stands were also cheering. Many of them even excitedly shouted Qin Guang's name. Student Qin Guang, I'm the head coach of the school's swimming team, Qin Yuanhua. I think you have a lot of potential. Come to the swimming team. I really think highly of you. The head coach of the school's swimming team, Qin Yuanhua, didn't pay any attention to Dong Tao, who was grimacing in pain. Instead, he squatted in front of Qin Guang's lane and said to Qin Guang, who was about to climb up. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. This was also a way to make a fortune. If he could become a professional athlete, participate in the Olympics, win a gold medal, and become a world champion, he could become a celebrity like Sun Yang and Lu Xiang. Endorsement contracts would come one after another. In the future, if he was interested, he could even develop in the entertainment industry. He could easily make over 100 million a year, marry a fair, rich, and beautiful woman, and reach the pinnacle of his life. Great. Coach Qin, with my speed, I can already win a world championship? Qin Guang asked excitedly. Chapter 45. You really dared to say that? Coach Qin's mouth twitched. I'm afraid not yet. But don't worry. After 2 to 3 years of training, you will definitely become a top swimmer in the country. You are already very fast. Also, your fundamentals are perfect. All you lack is the final push. As long as you can persevere, there will be a spot for you in the Olympic Games in 3 years. Qin Yuanhua chuckled, thinking that he had discovered a good seedling. 3 years? Don't we have the Olympic Games this year? Qin Guang was unhappy. This year? Although I have high hopes for you, it will be difficult for you to swim within 3 minutes and 50 seconds. You should know that the hardest part is the last step. Don't rush. You can't walk 1,000 miles without taking 1 step at a time. Qin Yuanhua said honestly. Qin Guang nodded his head. He had a deep impression of this. When he took the second test in the cup realm, he only took a month to reach the same standard as Wen. In other words, he was an outstanding professional gamer. But to become the so-called strongest Dota 2 player in history, to make up for his last shortcoming, he practically had to bear blood and tears as he squatted in that unlucky puddle for another 2 months. Coach Qin, I understand what you are saying. I understand it very well. Thinking of his miserable past, Qin Guang choked. What? Crying already? Coach Qin was confused. Qin Guang shook his head. Thank you for your kind intentions. Swimming is just a hobby. I can't become a champion, I can endure it. Thank you. With that, Qin Guang turned around and left without any hesitation. He knew his own situation. He could swim fast because he swam in the sea of seconds at his peak for 20 years. No matter how much he trained, he would reach this level. His swimming skills had already reached the pinnacle, and he was like family to the water. Today's standard was already at its peak. It was simply a fool's dream to think that he could improve further. His height and arm length were obvious to him. Compared to those swimming geniuses, he was naturally at a disadvantage. To put it bluntly, he was able to kill Dong Tao today because Dong Tao wasn't a true expert. Apart from that, even if he trained hard and managed to swim in 3 minutes and 50 seconds, he was still 8 seconds away from winning the championship. Swimming was different from other sports. The stronger you were, the faster you would be able to swim. There was a lot more to it than meets the eye. There could only be one champion for an athlete. Who would remember who the runner-up was? Who would know how much sweat and tears those poor runners-up and third-place finishers standing behind the champions had wasted? Qin Guang knew his own potential. He didn't want to waste a few years of hard work, only to end up being a supporting character for others. Hey, Qin Guang. Don't go. Don't go. Coach Qin refused to give up. Chen Guang wiped his body with a towel and put on his sportswear. He turned around and shrugged his shoulders. Coach Qin, look at my body again. My arm span isn't even as good as that weakling Dong Tao. You only saw that I swam well today, but this is really my limit. Thank you for your kindness, Coach Qin. You should go and check on Dong Tao. He looks badly injured. How pitiful. Chen Guang said in a slightly joking tone. Dong Tao was still gritting his teeth and looking at him with hatred. What? Haven't lost enough? You want to fight with your fists? Chen Guang wasn't afraid of trouble. He put on his clothes and walked over to Dong Tao. How dare you stare at me? I'll dig out your eyeballs. At that moment, the poor guy was still limping with the help of his two teammates. His two teammates looked at Chen Guang with fear in their eyes. No matter how weak you were, you would always subconsciously feel inferior in front of the strong. Not to mention that Chen Guang had completely defeated them today. Dong Tao turned his face to the side helplessly. He didn't want to talk to Chen Guang anymore. At that moment, there was nothing more sorrowful than a dead heart. At the same time, he hated Pan Jiang in his heart. If it wasn't for that guy, he wouldn't have been assigned to Chen Guang's group in the preliminaries. He wouldn't have lost so much face today. Now that he was seriously injured, his training would be affected. Moreover, Coach Qin's attitude just now made him feel especially sad. For the sake of Pan Jiang's 6,000 yuan, he had suffered a great loss. TSK, if you don't have the guts, then keep your tail between your legs. If you don't like it, ask around in the school. I, Chen Guang, have never been afraid of anything. If you're not happy, we're all in dorm 7. You can come and find trouble with me at any time. I'll take it. After saying that, Chen Guang turned his head and left. He did this on purpose to let Coach Qin see clearly that he was a man and that he was a thorn in his side. Don't pester me and pull me into your profession. I'm really not cut out for that, and I don't have the mood to waste time with you. On the other side, Pan Jiang's mood wasn't much better than Dong Tao's. Pan Jiang, if you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Chen Guang is right there. Do you want to go apologize and make up with Chen Guang now, or do you want to wait for another day when all 4 of them are together? Sun Xiaoxuan was extremely pleased. When she found out that Dong Tao and the other 2 were assigned to the same group as Chen Guang, she felt that something was wrong. Now that Chen Guang had actually won, of course she was happy. However, at the same time, she found Pan Jiang's appearance to be even more unpleasant to the eye. She felt that this person was so terrible that he actually played dirty to trick Chen Guang. He almost succeeded, so her words were unconsciously filled with disdain and arrogance. Looking at Sun Xiaoxuan's fake smile, Pan Jiang felt as uncomfortable as if he had swallowed a fly. However, he knew that if he turned hostile at this time, the food and wine that had been added to the table in Qinye Xian would be in vain. No matter how angry he was, he had to swallow it first. Pan Jiang squeezed out an ugly smile and said, "Fine. I'll go apologize to him right now." "Brother Pan Jiang? You're really going?" Pan Jiang's lackeys behind him were shocked. Pan Jiang turned around and glared at them. "All of you go back. I'll go alone to apologize. Don't even think about seeing me embarrassed. I want to sincerely apologize to Chen Guang." He turned around again, acting more and more sincere. "Class rep Sun, come with me. I'll apologize to him in front of you. How about it? Is it sincere enough?" Sun Xiaoxuan smiled. She felt that although Pan Jiang was a terrible person, he could still be saved. Although Chen Guang had shocked the audience in the preliminaries today, there were still preliminaries to go. After changing his clothes, Chen Guang didn't receive any treatment like a celebrity. Instead, he easily walked to the entrance of the natatorium and exchanged phone numbers with a few girls. He was overjoyed. As he walked, he buried his head in his phone and typed the girls' names one by one. In his mind, he secretly recalled who was the prettiest. Should I contact her first tomorrow? Chen Guang, over here. As soon as he walked out of the entrance, Sun Xiaoxuan shouted and waved at him from afar. Feeling guilty, Chen Guang quickly hid his phone in his trouser pocket and walked over. Class rep personally came to the scene and cheered for me. This little one is really proud. Thank you, beautiful classmates. Why did I hide my phone? I have nothing to do with her. Is there something wrong with my heart? Chen Guang secretly ridiculed himself. At this time, he noticed a sneaky and bashful figure sitting on the flower bed behind the girls. Yo, isn't this our basketball star, Pan Jiang? Why are you interested in watching a small fry like me compete in the preliminaries? Are you here to watch a good show? It's a good show, right? Chen Guang originally suspected that Pan Jiang was up to no good. Now that he had exposed Dong Tao, it was like slapping his face. Now, Pan Jiang even came to him to stab him. What a considerate little cotton-padded jacket. Pan Jiang's head was burning. He almost wanted to jump up and strangle Chen Guang. But when he looked at Chen Guang's smiling face, his mind began to roar. Endure it. I must King hold it in. Chapter 46. Pan Jiang slowly stood up and raised his head to look at Chen Guang. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, and said in a tone that was almost gnashing his teeth, Chen Guang, congratulations on passing the preliminaries. From the looks of it, you will definitely be the champion of the school sports meet this time. As your classmate, I'm really honored to be your classmate. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows and thought, what's wrong with this guy? Even if I trampled Dong Tao and the other two to death and passed the preliminaries, there's no need for him to speak to me in such a humble manner, right? At this moment, Sun Xiaoxuan coughed and saw Chen Guang looking at him with a puzzled expression, but Sun Xiaoxuan quickly turned his face to the other side. Pan Jiang was well aware of what Sun Xiaoxuan meant. He was so angry that his teeth itched. Looking at Chen Guang's satisfied look, he really wanted to punch him in the face. But Pan Jiang knew that he had to restrain himself at this moment, or else all his previous efforts would be in vain. He slowly lowered his head and didn't dare to let Chen Guang and the others see his eyes that looked as if he wanted to eat someone alive. He said in a low and hoarse voice, Chen Guang, I apologize to you here. I was wrong in the past, and I was narrow-minded. But now, it's been so long, and it's fate that we got to know each other, so please forgive me for my past recklessness. Also, please help me convey my apology to Bai Fan, Lin Jingwei, and Xiong Jinke. I don't expect us to be good friends in the future, but for the sake of being classmates, let's at least coexist peacefully, okay? The more Pan Jiang said, the lower his head became, as if he was really too ashamed to see anyone. Chen Guang was startled by Pan Jiang's sudden apology. A dying man's words were always kind. Could it be that this guy was going to die? But he was still alive and kicking and looked at Dong Tao. It didn't look like he was going to die, did it? That was too abnormal. Chen Guang was suddenly alarmed. He first pushed Sun Xiaoxuan and the others away, and then he was on full alert. Pan Jiang, did you take the wrong medicine? He couldn't help but be shocked. Pan Jiang and his roommates had been in conflict with Pan Jiang for a long time, and it couldn't be erased with just a few words. Besides, if this guy really changed, there might be some room for negotiation. But from Chen Guang's point of view, this guy was simply unchangeable. There was no reason for him to come to him and apologize for no reason. Hearing those words, Pan Jiang's face twitched. He wanted nothing more than to throw a punch at Chen Guang. However, he ultimately held it in and raised his head with a wronged expression. I'm sincerely apologizing to you, and I just wanted to let bygones be bygones. You don't have to scold me at this moment, right? Pan Jiang's face twitched, and he wanted to punch Chen Guang. But in the end he held back. He raised his head again and put on a wronged expression. I'm sincerely apologizing to you, and I just want to forget about the grudge between us. You don't have to scold me at this time, do you? Chen Guang turned his head to look at Sun Xiaoxuan, and she winked at him. Fine, I hope you'll keep your word. It's not our roommates who are picking a fight. As long as you don't pick a fight with us, it won't be hard to get along with each other. Chen Guang was telling the truth. Then it's fine. Sun Xiaoxuan was afraid that Chen Guang would say something else to intensify the conflict, so she clapped her hands together and put an end to today's matter. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. As they were talking, Chen Guang noticed that Coach Qin Yuanhua, who tried to drag him to the swimming team, was walking out of the swimming complex and heading straight for him. If I'm not mistaken, Coach Qin hasn't given up yet. Chen Guang wasn't in the mood to waste time with him. He said goodbye to Sun Xiaoxuan and the others and ran away. Hey, classmate Chen Guang. Coach Qin saw that Chen Guang was about to run, so he yelled at him from behind. But how could he catch up with Chen Guang? He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Sun Xiaoxuan originally wanted to spend more time with Chen Guang, but he ran away all of a sudden. Sun Xiaoxuan was disappointed, but she finally understood what had happened when she saw Coach Qin. After Chen Guang left the swimming complex, he went back to his room alone. His mind was filled with the previous incident. The person who understood you the most was your enemy. Although Chen Guang didn't take Pan Jiang seriously, they had been on bad terms for 2 or 3 years. They both knew each other's character. There must be something wrong when something is out of the ordinary. Today, Pan Jiang tried to embarrass him in the preliminaries with Dong Tao and the others, but he failed. Then he apologized to him and expressed that he was willing to make peace. It was unbelievable. In Chen Guang's view, it didn't matter even if the two of them maintained this conflicted relationship until they graduated from university. Anyway, after graduation, they wouldn't have to deal with each other anymore. He didn't have to do this at all. But why was that? What was he plotting? Many things from the past few days came to his mind one by one. Chen Guang had a flash of inspiration. He recalled the scene when he met Sun Xiaoxuan at lunch that day. He seemed to have grasped some inspiration, but he couldn't be sure. Forget it, let's not think about it now. I'll send a message to Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend and ask her to keep an eye on things. Chen Guang also had the number of the girls in his class in his phone. After sending a message, he put the matter aside. Class rep, I, Pan Jiang, am a man of my word, right? I lost the bet today and I admit it. After Chen Guang left, Pan Jiang finally let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that if Chen Guang stayed for a while longer, he wouldn't be able to hold it in anymore. The other girls still had competitions to attend, so they couldn't surround Sun Xiaoxuan anymore. One by one, they ran off to participate in their own competitions. Before they left, they looked down on Sun Xiaoxuan, saying that she only cared about watching Chen Guang and didn't watch her good friends' competitions. Sun Xiaoxuan's view of him had changed a lot. He responded, well, at least you keep your word. Anyway, I hope you guys can get along well in the future. One more friend is one more path. You guys didn't have to fight each other. Although Pan Jiang was disdainful of Sun Xiaoxuan's words in his heart, his face showed that he was enjoying it very much. Yeah, I was too childish before. After this incident, I feel like I've grown up a lot. Even if I won the bet today, I actually planned to apologize to Chen Guang. That's what I was thinking. Now it's a good thing, I've found a way to step down. It's just a pity. Sun Xiaoxuan asked, what's a pity? Pan Jiang smiled bitterly and shook his head. Actually, I knew that Dong Tao and the other two would be in the same qualifying group as Chen Guang. I thought I was going to win, so I booked a table at Xianxia in advance. Now that I've lost, I've already paid for the table of food. Xianxia doesn't allow refunds, sigh. Why did you book a table at Xianxia? It's so expensive. Sun Xiaoxuan also knew that the food at Xianxia wasn't cheap. Pan Jiang continued to squeeze out a sincere, bitter smile on his face. I didn't think I would lose. What's more, this is the first time I'm treating you to a meal in my 3 years in university. Thinking about how much you've helped and taken care of me these past 3 years, deducting a few thousand yuan from my living expenses isn't a big deal. But now, class rep, I have a presumptuous request. Even if I lost, can you give me some face and eat this meal on account of how sincere my apology to Chen Guang was? It would be a pity to waste it. Sun Xiaoxuan hesitated for a moment. Pan Jiang had already spoken up to this point. His performance just now was indeed very good. Now that the food had been ordered and he looked so pitiful, it would be a bit embarrassing if she didn't give him face. She was also a thrifty person by nature. Although it wasn't her money that was wasted, it was all because of her. It wouldn't be good for Pan Jiang to waste a few thousand yuan. However, she originally planned to bring a few of her good friends to escort her, but after hearing Pan Jiang mention Qing Yixin, she was even more shaken. That place could cost a few thousand yuan for 2 or 3 people, and 10,000 yuan for 7 or 8 people. After all, Sun Xiaoxuan was still a student. How could she bear to let someone treat her to a meal and spend tens of thousands of yuan? What should she do? In the end, she nodded hesitantly. Okay. She thought, it's just a meal. We're all classmates, so it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Chapter 47. In the end, Sun Xiaoxuan was still soft-hearted. Being the class monitor for 3 years made her overly optimistic about the people in the class. She really couldn't imagine how crazy Pan Jiang was. It was actually very difficult to make a person like Pan Jiang stop messing around. Moreover, he was the main force of the school basketball team, so he was always surrounded by girls. But since the second semester of his sophomore year, he really hadn't had a new girlfriend. Sun Xiaoxuan was the one who made him change. As the saying goes, the more unattainable something is, the more ecstatic it is. Sun Xiaoxuan was different from the girls who threw themselves at him. She was a girl from Jiangnan. She was gentle but stubborn. As the class monitor, she was capable and experienced, but she could always unconsciously show the sweetness and cuteness that belonged to a little girl. Coupled with her outstanding appearance, she was even more charming. When Pan Jiang was tired of the debauchery outside, he suddenly found that there was such a charming girl in the class, and his heart was immediately moved. At that time, he felt like he was crawling through the mortal world, but when he looked back, he found that the person was in the dim light. He even felt that he had lived the first 2 years of his university life like a dog. Obviously, the best girl was in his class, but he only cared about flirting outside, which resulted in a terrible reputation. Since then, he really changed his mind and tried to change his image in the class, trying to get closer to Sun Xiaoxuan bit by bit. Unfortunately, the falling flowers were heartless. He longed for Sun Xiaoxuan, but Sun Xiaoxuan's eyes were filled with his enemy, Qin Guang. He took the initiative to get closer again and again, but what he got in return was Sun Xiaoxuan drawing a clear line like Tai Chi, leaving him with no place to use his strength and no place to vent his anger. So in the past year, when he and Qin Guang's roommates were in the past, he always found Qin Guang and the others unpleasant to the eye. It was purely because he hated the house and its crow. He was not a steady person to begin with, and the pain and depression of the past year gradually twisted his mind. The so-called love in his heart was thrown to nothing again and again. When he saw how Sun Xiaoxuan treated Qin Guang and himself, he was so jealous that he wanted to go crazy. If you want to destroy someone, first make them crazy. He didn't know where he learned this principle from, but if you couldn't conquer a woman's heart, you could conquer her body first. This was especially true for girls from Jiangnan, who had always been gentle since ancient times. They would never forget the first man in their life. So, Pan Jiang began to plan with great effort. He wanted to conquer Sun Xiaoxuan's body first. In fact, he knew Counselor Zhuo Jingxi's thoughts even before Sun Xiaoxuan did. From the moment he took the initiative to provoke Qin Guang and the others after class, he slowly pushed the matter in the direction he wanted. All of it was for this meal. In the end, Qin Guang suddenly defeated Dong Tao today, nearly causing him to lose all his efforts. But fortunately, he managed to obtain Sun Xiaoxuan's sympathy by gritting his teeth. As long as Sun Xiaoxuan went to the elegant pavilion with him, she wouldn't be able to control what happened next. Suppressing the joy in his heart, Pan Jiang sat alone in the private room of the elegant pavilion and quietly waited for Sun Xiaoxuan's arrival. He couldn't help but imagine the scene of him completely conquering Sun Xiaoxuan. Maybe she'll hate me in the beginning, but it doesn't matter. I'm sincere to her. I'm even willing to marry her. She'll slowly realize that I, Pan Jiang, am the best choice. Qin Guang, that pauper, what's so good about him? After Qin Guang returned to the dormitory, he didn't dare to be careless. He had to be on guard against Emperor of the Azure's sudden appearance and surprise. This feeling was a little tiring and painful. After reading for so long, Qin Guang's eyes were about to blur. He silently put down The Jewish Secret of Success and sighed. When would these days come to an end? Emperor of the Azure, If you don't come out soon, I'm afraid the old man will finish all these books without your help. The old man will grow into a business tycoon by himself. At this moment, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend. Did something really happen to Sun Xiaoxuan? Chen Guang frowned and began to feel nervous. He wasn't a complete idiot. He could vaguely sense that Sun Xiaoxuan, the beautiful class monitor, had feelings for him. As a pure-blooded old virgin, having a cute and obedient girlfriend like Sun Xiaoxuan was a great blessing in his life. However, for the past 6 months, Chen Guang's family had been in trouble. He was busy earning money to buy medicine for his mother. He really didn't have the mood for romance, and he didn't want to spend his precious time on romance. Besides, Sun Xiaoxuan was a good girl. Chen Guang couldn't be sure of his feelings for her, so he didn't dare to rashly accept the olive branch she quietly threw at him. He didn't want to hurt her. Of course, he had more or less tested Sun Xiaoxuan a few times. In the end, when you didn't think that way, she would always boldly give you hope. But when he seriously considered the matter, Sun Xiaoxuan timidly took a step back. With this, time had been wasted until now. Chen Guang. Not good. It's almost dinner time, and Xiaoxuan still hasn't come back. I just asked around. I heard that Pan Jiang went out early in the afternoon. About 10 minutes ago, someone saw Xiaoxuan on the commercial street outside the school. I suspect that Xiaoxuan went to eat with Pan Jiang. But I don't know where exactly. Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend said anxiously on the phone. Chen Guang was stunned. He realized that he was a bit cheap. He clearly didn't want to accept this beautiful class monitor, but when he suddenly heard this, he felt a bit sour in his heart. If she's going to eat, then she's going. What's the big deal? Chen Guang's words came out of his mouth. Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend was also stunned. After a while, she said with some uncertainty, "You're not worried?" Chen Guang said in a bad mood, "What's there to worry about? Isn't it just eating together? It's fine." That seems to be the case. I'm being too sensitive. Didn't you ask me to help you watch over her? I did say that. Anyway, thank you so much. It's fine. Chen Guang wanted to make himself appear more calm. He didn't want the other party to think that he really had that kind of feelings for Sun Xiaoxuan. Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend finally hung up the phone with a bitter smile. She secretly blamed Sun Xiaoxuan in her heart. You clearly have feelings for Chen Guang. Why did you go to eat with Pan Jiang for no reason? But now, judging from Chen Guang's tone, he must have gotten jealous. No, I'm also stupid. Why did I call Chen Guang? Damn. Xiaoxuan. Didn't I get you into trouble? I'm so stupid. On the other side, Chen Guang hung up the phone. He took the heavenly holy grail and planned on going downstairs to eat alone. After a while, Bai Fan and the other two would be back. Chen Guang was afraid that they would drag him to play games, so he planned on hiding for a while. Walking down the dormitory building, Chen Guang whistled and walked to the cafeteria. As he walked, his pace unconsciously became slower and slower. The whistle in his mouth gradually lost its pitch. He was very sad to find that he actually couldn't sit still because of the phone call from Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend. Why is my right eyelid twitching so much? It's like it's electric. Chen Guang's mind suddenly recalled Pan Jiang's lowered head when he apologized today. Pan Jiang's forcefully suppressed anger gradually surfaced in his mind. He must be plotting something to endure such humiliation. Something's wrong. Chapter 48. Old Master Chen Guang began to panic, and he even subconsciously tightened his grip on the cup. No, I have to go and see what's going on. Chen Guang picked up his phone and searched for Sun Xiaoxuan's number. He tried to call him, but the voice on the phone told him that the number he dialed could not be connected at the moment. Damn it, I can't get through. Where did she and Pan Jiang eat? Chen Guang never thought that since Pan Jiang was so well prepared, how could he not consider the problem of the phone? In his backpack, there was a signal jamming device that he asked someone to buy at a high price. He didn't want anyone to contact Sun Xiaoxuan. The phone couldn't get through, and Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend didn't know where they ate. Chen Guang reacted quickly and immediately thought of Pan Jiang's lackeys. The outside of the school was so big. It would be impossible to find them if they ran around like headless flies. The only thing he could do now was, of course, to dig out information from those guys' mouths. Pan Jiang and his buddy's dormitory was downstairs from Chen Guang's dormitory. Chen Guang walked down the stairs and happened to see them opening the door to eat. Blocking their path, Chen Guang roared, "Get in! I have something to ask you." With an urgent matter in mind, Chen Guang's attitude was very bad. As he spoke, he pushed the person in front of him, causing him to stumble. "Chen Guang, what are you doing?" The person who was almost pushed down by Chen Guang immediately made a fuss. Chen Guang thought for a moment. This place was still in the stairwell, and it wasn't good for passers-by to see him hitting someone. He didn't bother to be polite and pushed the person back into the room. Then, he closed the door behind him. "Nothing, I just want to ask you something. You better hurry up and say it, I'm not in a good mood right now." At this moment, the few of them immediately exploded. The two sides already had a conflict, and Chen Guang's attitude clearly showed that he's here to cause trouble. "Damn, don't think we're really afraid of you. You are alone now. Believe it or not, we will beat you up." Another person reached out from the side and pushed Chen Guang, intending to push him against the door. "I can take care of you all by myself. I'm asking you, where the F***ck did Pan Jiang go?" As Chen Guang roared, he grabbed his opponent's outstretched hand, took a step forward, and elbowed him in the chest. His other hand first threw the cup on the ground, then reached out from the side, and pressed on the kid's face, pushing him back. His right foot tripped on the ground, and he immediately fell on his butt. When the others saw that Chen Guang didn't say a word and actually attacked, they all planned to come over. They were also furious. "Damn it! Get him! You're taking advantage of me!" These people felt that Chen Guang was simply looking down on them for daring to act so arrogantly in the presence of four of them. "I'm stepping on your nose, so what?" Chen Guang turned around, raised his leg, and kicked the face of the person who was speaking arrogantly, leaving a large shoe print on his face. He then turned around and shrunk his neck, dodging the fist coming from his back. Although his waist was being hugged by someone, Chen Guang fiercely shook that person's hands away. He then grabbed another person's hair and slammed him against the wall. He did not even use his full strength, and this person's head slammed against the wall with a dong sound, like a drum being hit. This unlucky fellow's head was instantly dizzy, and he was seeing stars, unable to differentiate between north, south, east, and west. The current Chen Guang was no longer an ignorant person. In the Sea of Su, he had trained in killing methods. Today, he was already being merciful to the point where he couldn't hold back anymore. Otherwise, even with the strength of these four people, they wouldn't even be enough for him to squeeze them to death in a matter of minutes. Of course, these four people still had a guilty conscience, so they didn't really dare to fight Chen Guang with their lives. Chen Guang, on the other hand, was worried about Sun Xiaoxuan, so he was aggressive. Both sides' auras were waxing and waning, so it was normal to see who was superior the moment they made a move. "I ask you, where did Pan Jiang go tonight? Don't force me to be ruthless." Chen Guang glared angrily. As he spoke, he pulled back the hair of the brat whose head slammed against the wall and fiercely slammed it against the wall again. This time, his nose stopped 2 to 3 centimeters away from the wall, causing him to break out in cold sweat. Chen Guang then pushed his head back and fiercely glared at him. "I ask you, do you know? Do you know? This is the last time I ask you." As Chen Guang's anger erupted, the ruthlessness that he had accumulated for 20 years on the An Royal was released without reservation. These four people were scared silly. They had known Chen Guang for 3 years, but they had never seen him so ferocious. Even when they had fought on the field because of Pan Jiang, Chen Guang hadn't gone as crazy as he was today, wanting to take someone's life. What the hell? These people felt as if they weren't facing the familiar Chen Guang of the past, but a butcher who killed people like scything flax. "You won't say? You're very strong-willed, aren't you?" Chen Guang only gave them a few seconds to think and be at a loss. He was really in a hurry. Soon after, he bent his hand and pulled the brat's head back by a foot. He was really going to hit it. If he really hit it, this unlucky brat's nose would probably collapse. Pan Jiang went to the Qinya pavilion. He asked Sun Xiaoshuan to eat at the Qinya pavilion. Someone finally roared. You guys better pray that nothing happens to Sun Xiaoshuan, or else the four of you will follow Pan Jiang into big trouble. After getting the answer he wanted, Qin Guang threw the person to the side, turned around, picked up the heavenly holy grail from the ground, and ran downstairs. After waiting for a long time for Qin Guang to leave, these four people finally came back to their senses. They looked at each other in dismay, remembering that the four of them had been completely subdued by Qin Guang. They felt ashamed and scared. They actually didn't know Pan Jiang's real plan, but seeing Qin Guang's anxious and angry appearance, they thought to themselves, could it be that this lord really planned to do such a despicable thing? If it was true, then wouldn't these people who knew about it become criminals? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and call Brother Pan Jiang. Tell him that Qin Guang is coming. No, I can't get through. I don't know what's going on. That's right, Sun Xiaoshuan's cell phone couldn't get through, and Pan Jiang's cell phone was also the same. However, he felt that it was good that no one could contact him. He didn't think that the fiendish Qin Guang was already here. Ever since she sat in this private room, Sun Xiaoshuan couldn't sit still. She looked at the expensive delicacies on the table and faintly regretted coming here. It wasn't because she noticed anything, but she felt that she didn't have any thoughts about Pan Jiang, so wouldn't Qin Guang misunderstand her if she came to eat such a valuable meal from Pan Jiang and Qin Guang heard about it? Pan Jiang, you're too polite. Why did you order so much? We can't finish it all. Sun Xiaoshuan hesitated, unwilling to move her chopsticks. Pan Jiang tried to squeeze out a harmless smile. Class rep Sun, all these dishes have been ordered. It would be a waste if we don't eat them. Oh right, I heard that pineapple soup is very popular in your hometown. Try it first to stimulate your appetite. Let's work harder and finish it. Otherwise, my heart will hurt. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to express my gratitude. When I go back, I won't gossip about this. Besides, you're my class rep. It's normal for me to treat you to a meal. Pan Jiang said as he pushed a plate of crystal-clear pineapple soup in front of Sun Xiaoshuan. He didn't guess wrong. Sun Xiaoshuan's hometown was indeed very popular to eat this kind of sweet food. Sun Xiaoshuan hesitated slightly. She thought that it wouldn't be good if she didn't eat it. Forget it, pineapple soup seemed to be the cheapest thing on the table. She would just eat a little bit and then hurry back to school. Pan Jiang's smile became incomparably natural for the first time as he watched Sun Xiaoshuan ladle 2 spoonfuls of pineapple soup into her bowl. Great, it's done. Chapter 49. The stuff Pan Jiang mixed into the pineapple soup didn't have any strange smell, so Sun Xiaoshuan didn't guard against him. However, she and Pan Jiang didn't have much in common. Since they started eating, she had to eat her fill. The dining table fell into an awkward silence. If it weren't for the guilt in his heart, Pan Jiang would definitely feel that this expensive meal was exceptionally useless. He had spent so much money, but the other party didn't even want to say anything. But now, he wasn't worried at all. It didn't matter if she didn't want to talk. Sure enough, the meal didn't last long before Sun Xiaoshuan's eyes gradually became misty, and his vision became unclear. At first, she thought she was too tired. She rubbed her temples and said, "Strange, why do I feel so sleepy? Pan Jiang, are you done eating? I have to go back to school." She put her hands on the table and tried to get up. Pan Jiang couldn't let her leave like this. He quickly got up and blocked Sun Xiaoshuan's way. "Class rep, you can't just leave like this. There's so much left on the table. Help me eat some more." Sun Xiaoshuan's dizziness became more and more severe. This wasn't normal fatigue. It was like the world was spinning. She stood still, but she felt like the room was spinning. No matter how innocent she was, she knew something was wrong. No, I have to go back. Pan Jiang, thank you for your kindness today. See you tomorrow." Sun Xiaoshuan staggered toward the door of the private room. She didn't even take 2 steps before her body suddenly went limp and she slowly fell to the ground. Sun Xiaoshuan fiercely bit his tongue to clear his mind. Then he stood up with the help of the wall and reached for the handle of the room's door. Pan Jiang pressed his palm on the door. Class rep, you seem to be sick. How about I take you to rest? Sun Xiaoxuan clenched her teeth and slapped Pan Zhang's hand away. Move. Let me out. I'm going to call for help. Pan Zhang finally tore off his disguise. Go ahead and call. If you can make a sound, then go ahead and scream. The soundproofing of this private room is better than you think. I'll count to 3 and you can go to sleep. When you wake up, everything will be fine. Go to sleep. Get out. Get lost. Although Sun Xiaoxuan's tone was harsh, his voice was getting softer and softer until it was almost inaudible like a mosquito. I really didn't expect you to be this kind of person. I misjudged you. When she said this, she had more or less guessed what kind of fate awaited her, and her heart couldn't help but feel even more desolate. But now that things had come to this, who could be blamed? If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame himself for being too stupid and naive to actually not see through Pan Zhang's true intentions. Yes, if he didn't have bad intentions, he wouldn't have asked Dong Tao from the Department of Architecture to snipe Chen Guang in the competition, and he wouldn't have spent thousands of yuan to book a seat in the elegant pavilion. I was such a fool. I regret it so much. Sun Xiaoxuan truly didn't have the slightest bit of strength left. Her heart was filled with regret as she slowly collapsed to the ground. Before she lost consciousness, her last thought was that if she was truly defiled, then she wouldn't want to live anymore. Looking at Sun Xiaoxuan slowly lying on the ground, Pan Zhang's face revealed a trace of a sinister smile. He seemed to be talking to himself, but also seemed to be saying it deliberately for Sun Xiaoxuan to hear. You think I want to do this? You forced me to do this. You forced me to do this. What's so good about Chen Guang in the end? Why do you only look at him? Even if you're throwing yourself at him, you still want to get close to him. Why won't you look at me straight in the eye? I've clearly already changed my mind. Why won't you even give me a little chance? You're not fair. You're not fair at all. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to do this. But don't worry, after today, everything will be fine. I will be responsible for you, and I won't mistreat you. Trust me. Pan Zhang had ordered a bottle of wine before, and now he first opened the bottle and poured some on the ground, filling the entire private room with the smell of wine. When the waiter asked, he could say that his classmate was drunk, and these people wouldn't have any suspicions. Pan Zhang slowly lowered his body, intending to pick up Sun Xiaoxuan. The expression on his face was extremely complicated. It was 30% ferocious, 30% excited, and 30% frenzied, with a hint of complacency from his evil plan succeeding. As a private restaurant, the waiter outside the elegant pavilion wouldn't easily enter without a guest's invitation. After all, this place was frequented by big shots, and these people didn't like to be disturbed when they were discussing business. Therefore, he could completely slowly lift Sun Xiaoxuan up. He was extremely pleased in his heart. No one can stop me from getting Sun Xiaoxuan anymore. The smile on Pan Zhang's face gradually blossomed. He bent down, and his palm was getting closer and closer to Sun Xiaoxuan's neck. At this moment, the private room's door suddenly made a clicking sound. Pan Zhang's body quivered. What's going on? There's no reason for the elegant pavilion's waiter to open the door for no reason. Not good. I have to quickly help Sun Xiaoxuan up, or else it'll be hard to explain. Pan Zhang hurriedly quickened his movements, but the door was suddenly opened. Pan Zhang's hand maintained the posture of wanting to help Sun Xiaoxuan up, and it was only a few centimeters away from Sun Xiaoxuan's neck. At the same time, he subconsciously raised his head to look at the door. Then, his movements suddenly froze, as if someone had cast a body-freezing spell on him. Chen Guang, what are you doing here? Pan Zhang's voice sounded a bit shaky. The so-called guilty conscience described his current state of mind. With Chen Guang's experience, he had already guessed what was going on the moment he saw this scene. He was so angry that he laughed instead. He took a step forward and stared at Pan Zhang. I've really learned something new. Even if I used the greatest evil to analyze you, I absolutely wouldn't have thought that you would be so audacious to this extent. Pan Zhang, you're really going to break the bottom line of the word despicable. As Chen Guang spoke, he fiercely pushed Pan Zhang's shoulder, pushing him back from his bent posture and causing him to fall on his butt. "Chen Guang, don't you slander me." Pan Jiang still wanted to deny it. He propped up his body and argued fiercely. On the other hand, Chen Guang had already bent over to help Sun Xiaoxuan up. He let her sit on the chair and put his hand under her nose to test her breathing. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. After doing all this, Chen Guang slowly got up, clenched his fist, and walked step by step toward Pan Jiang. "I slander you? No, I'll beat you up so badly right now. Don't think that I'm afraid of you." Pan Jiang had played basketball for a long time, so he was stronger and taller than Chen Guang. Chen Guang's sudden appearance first brought him a lot of mental pressure, which made him retreat for a while. But now that the matter had been seen through, the raging fire of jealousy in his heart suddenly turned into hysterical hatred for Chen Guang. "Why do you think I had to take the risk out of desperation and cause trouble to this step? Isn't it all because of you? You're not afraid of me? Of course you don't need to be afraid of me. I also don't need you to be afraid of me. I just want to teach you that no matter what you do, if you make a mistake, you have to pay the price." At this time, Chen Guang's heart was burning with anger. He had no interest in wasting time talking with him. It was more straightforward to see the truth with his fists. As soon as his voice fell, he threw a punch at Pan Jiang's face. Chapter 50. Pan Jiang was not a pushover. He raised his hand to block. He felt that he was taller and stronger than Chen Guang. If they really fought, he might not lose. But the next moment, Pan Jiang realized that he seemed to have made a big mistake. Chen Guang's fist was too fast. Pan Jiang didn't even have time to raise his hand. Half of his face was shaken. His mind went blank, and his whole body was hit against the wall of the private room. Pan Jiang felt that his teeth seemed to be loose, and the skin of his mouth was broken. When he shook his head violently, the saliva that came out of his mouth was mixed with blood. Unfortunately, he didn't spit on anyone. At most, it was a bloody mouth on the wall. After punching this guy, Chen Guang didn't stop. He clenched his left hand into a fist and hit Pan Jiang's stomach from below. With a muffled sound, Pan Jiang felt that his intestines were about to burst. "Oh!" He let out a long cry of pain. His hands covered his stomach, and the pain was unbearable. Why was Chen Guang so good at fighting? There was no reason. "I will King kill you." Pan Jiang fell back. His left hand grabbed the solid wood chair, and he was about to raise the chair to hit Chen Guang. "You actually used drugs on your own classmate. How could you do such a thing? I will make sure that you won't be able to do that for the rest of your life." Seeing that he still dared to fight back, Chen Guang was hot-tempered. How could he think so much? He suddenly raised his leg and kicked this guy's crotch. Pan Jiang's cry of pain turned into a scream. His voice became sharper and sharper. He curled up his body and lay on the ground. He curled up like a cooked prawn, and his body was still trembling. From the moment Chen Guang entered the room and started beating Pan Jiang, to the moment he completely put him down, only 30 seconds had passed. "What a bastard! I will beat the sh*t out of you." Chen Guang slowly calmed down his breathing. The opponent was too weak. No, he was too strong. This fight wasn't satisfying enough. Forget it. Sun Xiaoxuan didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. It was meaningless to continue beating Pan Jiang on the ground. "Sir, you stop, I'm calling the police." At this moment, the waitress of the elegant pavilion finally realized that something had happened in the private room. As soon as she came over, she saw Pan Jiang lying on the ground in a half-dead state. The poor waitress shrunk her neck and said timidly. Chen Guang's anger had yet to dissipate, and his fiendish appearance made her very afraid. However, she could not escape because of her duty. Chen Guang did not have a good impression of Xianxia Xian. Call the police? Just report it. This bastard actually drugged the food when he was eating with a female classmate. If something really happens, your Xianxia Xian won't be able to escape the responsibility. But you can't hit him. How could you hit someone? I really did call the police. No, the manager had already called the police before I came here. Hearing this, The waitress looked at Pan Jiang, who was still curled up on the ground, with a disgusted expression. However, she still said so, as if she was reminding Chen Guang to run away. Chen Guang knew that he had beaten Pan Jiang badly. Since Qin Yixuan had already called the police, there was no point in running away. He would be found sooner or later, so he simply did not plan to run away. However, it was a bit troublesome. Sun Xiaoshuan was still unconscious, and he did not know if the drug Pan Jiang used had any side effects. Just as he was fretting about this matter, a large group of people rushed in from the entrance of Qin Yixuan. It was Bai Fan, the 3 animals, and Sun Xiaoshuan's girlfriends. Pan Jiang's 4 followers also seemed to be cowering outside the door. They wanted to come in and see the situation, but they did not dare to. Bai Fan and the other 2 rushed over. Seeing that Chen Guang was safe and sound, and Pan Jiang was curled up on the ground in a half-dead state, they all let out a long breath. They were afraid that Chen Guang would be at a disadvantage, but now it seemed that Pan Jiang had been dealt with. *CK. I'll kill you. Xiong'e was indeed Xiong'e. After he squeezed through the waiter and rushed into the private room, he lifted a chair and wanted to hit Pan Jiang without thinking. On the other side, Lin Jingwei and Bai Fan were quick to react. They quickly grabbed this guy by the waist and dragged him back. Xiong'e, don't be impulsive. Pan Jiang, this grandson, has been beaten badly by Brother Guang. You can't add another knife. Don't kill him, it's not worth it. You'll also hurt Brother Guang. Lin Jingwei shouted. It was obviously not easy to stop Xiong'e, who had fallen into a berserk state. Sun Xiaoshuan's girlfriends hurried to Sun Xiaoshuan's side. Seeing that she had really fainted, each of them wanted to find a pair of scissors and stab Pan Jiang on the ground. The private room immediately became noisy, and it seemed to be in a mess. Stop messing around. Xiong'e, you be quiet too. Chen Guang patted the table. Don't waste time here. Hurry up and take Sun Xiaoshuan to the hospital for a checkup. Chen Guang's words reminded everyone, and they were in a mess again. 2 girls, one on the left and one on the right, carried Sun Xiaoshuan out, and Chen Guang asked Bai Fan and the other 2 to follow to help. Brother Guang, you're not going? Before leaving, Bai Fan saw that Chen Guang didn't follow, so he turned around and asked. Chen Guang shook his head. I'm not going. The people from Qin Yixuan called the police. I have to wait for the police to come and deal with this matter. I can't leave yet. He was not afraid of slanderous accusations. He was acting bravely for a just cause. Even if he injured Pan Jiang, it was called getting rid of a pest for the people. Everyone was helpless, and they were also worried that Sun Xiaoshuan's condition couldn't be delayed any longer. Chen Guang looked confident, so he finally left. After this person left, Pan Jiang's 4 lackeys came over in fear. They wanted to help Pan Jiang up, but they didn't dare to. At this time, Pan Jiang had stopped struggling, but he still lay on the ground and refused to get up. His crotch was still in pain, and he was even more afraid that after he got up, Chen Guang would not let him go and hit him again, so he might as well just lie down and pretend to be dead. In addition, he vaguely felt that when Chen Guang kicked his vital part, it was as if that part was going to be kicked until it exploded. He began to worry that he wouldn't really be crippled, would he? Chen Guang, I know I was wrong. Can you let me call 120? I want to go to the hospital. I'm seriously injured. Worried about the rest of his life, Pan Jiang summoned up his courage, endured the pain, and said with a trembling voice. Chen Guang, who was sitting on the chair, turned his head and glanced at him, but didn't say a word. Pan Jiang was suddenly speechless, and the other 4 could only look at each other. After waiting for about 15 minutes, the siren of the Qin Yixuan building sounded. The police had finally arrived. Name: Chen Guang. Age: 20. Occupation: junior at Gokyo University. Why did you hit him? Because he deserved to be hit. He wanted to drug and rape my classmate. Bang! You hit him because you think he deserves to be hit? You even seriously injured him and hospitalized him? If everyone thinks like you, then what's the use of us police? This is a society ruled by law, and you're abusing justice. You're breaking the law. Do you understand? You're already a university student. Why don't you have any legal awareness? Moreover, only us law enforcers have the power to convict suspects. What right do you have to say that about others? The beautiful female police officer slammed the table and stood up. She was so emotional that she even knocked over the chair under her, but when she stood up, Chapter 51. Chen Guang sat in the dimly lit interrogation room with his hands on the table. He slightly raised his head to look at the policewoman in front of him. His expression was very calm, and he didn't show any change in his expression because of her sudden anger. The policewoman standing in front of him was about 1.7 meters tall. She was considered tall among women. She had a slender figure, but she wasn't delicate. Because of her long-term training, she looked exceptionally heroic and tall. She wore her hair in a short braid and looked very capable. As she got angry, her rapid breathing caused her breasts to move up and down, which was particularly eye-catching under the light shining from the side. Chen Guang was slightly absent-minded. He subconsciously thought to himself, "What a valiant and heroic policewoman. Stinking brat. Where are you looking? I'm asking you a question. Put your attitude back on the right track." The beautiful policewoman slammed the table again. She was infuriated by the frivolous gaze that Chen Guang had unconsciously revealed. About half an hour ago, this policewoman and another male police officer came to the Xianxia. Chen Guang followed the two of them back to the police station to be interrogated. Pan Jiang lay pitifully on the ground for about 20 minutes. Finally, he waited for the ambulance and was sent to the hospital. Before the interrogation began, news came from the hospital. They roughly confirmed Pan Jiang's injuries. Internal bleeding and multiple soft tissue contusions were minor. The most serious injury was the crotch that Chen Guang had kicked. Perhaps it wouldn't be crippled, but he would have to undergo surgery. It was estimated that it would take at least a few months for him to fully recover. In short, his balls were almost cracked and needed to be repaired. The policewoman felt that a person like Chen Guang was a hot-headed youth who didn't know how to control his strength. What annoyed her the most was this kind of insensible young man. He was easily hot-blooded, looking for trouble, turning small matters into big ones, and big ones into big ones. She found a lot of work for them for no reason. She was busy dealing with these disputes and fights all day long. She didn't have time to participate in the real big cases. What's more, Chen Guang was indeed ruthless. According to the hospital, the one who beat him up must be a veteran among veterans. Every blow was aimed at the vital points. That was steady, accurate, and ruthless. Now, Chen Guang's attitude could not be considered to be cooperative. He actually said that the other party should be beaten, and the police comrade almost lost control of her emotions. The colleague sitting next to her hurriedly coughed heavily, signaling her to calm down. She didn't want to use violence to extort a confession. Although she had really done this before, the other party was a student after all. It wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess if things got out of hand. "Wang Long, why are you coughing for no reason? Go and take some medicine if your throat is uncomfortable." Although the policewoman said so, she still restrained her temper, straightened the chair, and sat down again. "I asked you a question. Chen Guang, why did you hit him?" The policeman named Wang Long was afraid that the hot-tempered policewoman would fly into a rage again, so he quickly took over the questioning. As he spoke, he also stuffed the notebook in his hand in front of the policewoman, indicating for her to make a statement. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. "Didn't I already tell you? If you don't believe me, what can I do? This reason of yours is not convincing enough. The law is based on evidence. The evidence we saw is that you seriously injured him. As for your statement that the victim intended to rape him, that's only your side of the story, it's not valid." The policewoman, who obviously had a deep prejudice against Chen Guang, coldly said from the side. Chen Guang spread his hands. "Right now, you are taking my statement, not extorting a confession by torture. You can ask me whatever you want, and I will answer all of it truthfully. Whether what I said is true or false, collecting evidence and the like, is your responsibility, not mine. Even if you ask me 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I will still say the same thing. Believe it or not, I will prosecute you for provocation. You will be locked up for at least a few months. The policewoman slapped the table, about to flip out. Police comrade, if you are not feeling well, you should rest for 2 days and then come back to handle the case. I understand that female comrade has a few days in a month when you are not in a good mood. But don't always glare at me, it's meaningless. I am a law-abiding citizen. Well, even if I injured Pan Jiang, it's just a fight in a normal sense. It can't be considered as picking a quarrel, right? I still understand this little bit of the law. Besides, the victim is still in a coma, she is also in the hospital. When she wakes up, why don't you go and ask her? At that time, you will understand that I am acting bravely for a just cause. Although this policewoman was really beautiful, her attitude made Chen Guang extremely unhappy. He was too lazy to pay attention to her. In any case, she had already made it clear that she wanted to convict him. Chen Guang did not do anything shameful, he was not afraid of ghosts knocking on his door in the middle of the night. Therefore, he might as well be stubborn with her. What? This policewoman was about to go berserk again. Wutong, don't talk too much. You can't handle a case with your emotions. Let me do the questioning. Wang Long couldn't stand it anymore. In his heart, he secretly agreed with Chen Guang's words. In the past 2 days, Wu Tong was really fiery. Usually, she was very hot-tempered, but today, she added fuel to the fire. Wu Tong and Chen Guang glared at each other. Although she was hot-tempered, she was not completely unreasonable. She just snorted and didn't say anything. This fiery policewoman finally calmed down. It didn't take long for Chen Guang to finish his statement, but he still couldn't leave. Before the matter was completely cleared up, he was afraid that he would still be detained. Since Wu Tong and Wang Long were responsible for this case, after finishing Chen Guang's statement, they immediately rushed to Wujing City Hospital. Pan Jiang and Sun Xiaoxuan were now in the hospital. After waiting for less than an hour, things changed again. Pan Jiang's family had rushed over, making a ruckus. They were looking for connections everywhere. It seemed that they wanted to make Chen Guang eat jail food. Tang Ying, do you think that girl was really drugged? In the corner of Pan Jiang's ward, Wu Tong pulled a female doctor in a white coat and asked. If Chen Guang was here, he would certainly recognize this female doctor as the drunken beauty who treated his kindness as donkey's liver and lung. At this time, Tang Ying seemed to be absent-minded. No one knew what she was thinking. She seemed to be daydreaming. Wu Tong, what did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Little girl, cooperating with the police can drive away your mind? You're too much. Well, I know that you're a return doctor. Letting you handle this matter is a waste of your talent, but we're good sisters. Helping me a little won't make you unhappy? Wu Tong and Tang Ying seemed to be very familiar with each other. Tang Ying gave Wu Tong a supercilious look. Isn't it written in black and white on this test report? That girl's blood has an excessive amount of triazolam. Isn't this a drug? You're still asking me? This family is really shameless. Their own son drugged a girl in the same class. Getting beaten is already a light punishment. He deserves to be hanged. Now he actually has the face to sue his student? If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Hey, hey, hey. Saying such words in front of the police, I will keep a close eye on you. You're a potential criminal. Besides, even if Pan Jiang did this, convicting him is the police's job. That boy doesn't have the qualifications. He injured someone, so naturally he should be punished by the law. Half of Wu Tong's mind was joking with her, but in her heart, she was thinking, Chen Guang, that hateful boy really didn't seem to be lying? This guy simply doesn't know what's good for him. If his attitude was a little better, I might have the heart to help him get out of this. But now, he deserves it. Well, I don't have a common language with a policewoman like you. You always have your reasons. You, the police, are always right. Think about it, that boy was there in time. If he wasn't there, Pan Jiang would have had his way and the girl would have jumped off the building. Someone else's life is gone, and you want to convict them? Is it useful? Can you bring the dead back? All right, there's nothing for me to do here. There are still patients waiting for me in the inpatient department. I'll go first. Looking at this family is annoying, Tang Ying said very disdainfully. She deeply sympathized with Sun Xiaoxuan's experience. It was purely because this incident reminded her of her own experience that day. It really made sense. If it wasn't for that kind-hearted taxi driver, she might have become a victim of jumping off the building. Alas, it was a pity that that person actually put her phone into the blacklist. When she changed the number and called him, when he heard her voice, he directly hung up, making him angry. Wu Tong didn't know what to do with this bestie doctor who grew up with her. She could only glare at her back. You ignorant person. I'm too lazy to argue with you. Chapter 52. Officer Wu, you've arrested the criminal, right? We want to see him. I want to give him a kick in the crotch. This scumbag, how could he kick our little Jiang like this? How could he be so cruel? Our Pan family is going to have no more descendants. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to jail for life. Just as Wu Tong walked over, a fat woman rushed out from the crowd and blocked her way, shouting. This fat woman had a head of fluffy brown curly hair, and she was still wearing a glittering gold dress on such a hot day. Her whole body exuded the aura of a nouveau riche, and as she clamored, her hands and feet danced in joy. A faint stench entered Wu Tong's nose, making her feel uncomfortable. Wu Tong frowned and took a step back. Family member, please calm down. The person who injured Pan Jiang has indeed been detained at the police station, but I'm afraid this case isn't that simple, right? Your Pan Jiang had drugged a girl's food when he treated her to a meal. If you really want to sue, I'm afraid that girl will have to sue Pan Jiang first before you can sue the boy. What? How is that possible? Our little Jiang would never do such a thing. Don't slander us. You're a police officer, so you need evidence. You said that the girl was drugged, but where's the evidence? Don't think that you can distort the truth just because you're a police officer. Believe it or not, I'll get someone to skin you alive. Look at you, you must have entered the police station through the back door. Pan Jiang's fat mother was instantly enraged and pressed towards Wu Tong. Wu Tong's impression of Pan Jiang's family had already fallen to the freezing point because of what Tang Ying had said. She was already a hot-tempered person, and now that this fat mother had dared to provoke her, she was no pushover. She glared at her and took a step forward, glaring fiercely at the fat woman. If I didn't have this skin on me, I would have torn your mouth off right now. If you're that capable, why don't you try and peel my mouth off? Wu Tong's sudden outburst stunned the fat woman. Why are you looking at me like that? Are police officers not human? Should they glare at you and blow at you? Do the police deserve to be punch bags? You don't even have the slightest bit of respect. Did you take the wrong medicine or reincarnate into the wrong body? Angry at me? Fine, your mouth belongs to you. You can say whatever you want. I don't care. But I don't need you to teach me how to handle a case. As for the evidence, this is the evidence in my hand. This is the test report of the girl just now. Wu Tong said as she waved her hand. It was the test report. Before she could finish her sentence, Wu Tong suddenly hid the report behind her back. You want to steal it? It's useless even if you snatch it and tear it apart. I'm not the only one in my hands anyway. That vixen must have purposely taken the medicine to frame my Xiao Jiang. Even if she was drugged, it had nothing to do with Xiao Jiang. You don't have any evidence. The fat woman howled from the side. Truly, the most despicable people were invincible. Officer, I wonder if the dishes and drinks on the table count as evidence? Just then Lin Jingwei, Bai Fan, and Xiong Jinke walked over from the side. They were carrying the takeaway from the elegant table. The three of them actually brought all the food on the table with them. As Lin Jingwei said this, he waved the bag in his hand. Wu Tong's eyes lit up. You're Chen Guang's classmate, right? You're very cautious. Lin Jingwei smiled and nodded. Of course. Brother Guang is our brother. We roughly knew what happened before we went there. We definitely can't let Brother Guang be wronged. Wu Tong couldn't help but look at Lin Jingwei. A typical university student wouldn't be so meticulous. Chen Guang had a bad temper, but he had a good classmate. Officer, Chen Guang didn't break the law. He's innocent. He did it to save me. Just then, a head popped out from the ward next to them. It was Sun Xiaoxuan with a pale face. She had just woken up from a coma when the girl beside her told her that Chen Guang had been arrested. She didn't care that she was weak all over. She hurriedly got up and went to the police station to testify for Chen Guang. As soon as she popped her head out of the ward, she saw Wu Tong. She didn't think much of it. She said weakly while holding the wall, trying to walk over. Xiaoxuan, you should rest a bit more. You can't even stand properly. The other girls followed her in a flurry and hurried to support her so that she wouldn't fall. Sun Xiaoxuan panted and walked in front of Wu Tong. She said again, "Officer, you can't wrongly accuse a good person. It's you, Vixen. You seduced my Xiaojiang. I'll beat you to death." Pan Zhang's fat mother suddenly jumped out like a ghost. She was about to chase and beat Sun Xiaoxuan. Sun Xiaoxuan was a weak girl. She had never seen such a shrew before. She was shocked. Wu Tong grabbed Pan Zhang's mother's arm in her hand and twisted it with a little force. She then held her back and said, "Family member, you'd better calm down. Violence can't solve the problem. If you insist on being unreasonable, no matter what your background is, I will still charge you with obstruction of law enforcement. Don't think that I don't have the right to do so. You're in cahoots, right? What kind of power does Qin Guang's family have? How rich are they? How can there be no law in this world? My son's balls were kicked, and you're still covering up for a criminal." The fat woman continued to make a scene. "Enough. Stop it." A middle-aged man finally couldn't stand it anymore. He came over and took the fat woman from her. He looked at Wu Tong deeply. "Officer, in short, our Pan family almost lost its bloodline this time. We won't let it go so easily. But we're also law-abiding citizens. We'll let the law speak for itself. My lawyer will be here soon. You said that my son drugged this girl. Whether it's true or not, this girl isn't hurt right now, right? My son is still in surgery. The only victim is my son. I won't let this go." This man was Pan Zhang's father. He had a big belly and was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. He looked quite imposing. "Of course, everything will be handled according to the law." Wu Tong raised her eyebrows. She could tell that the middle-aged man was threatening her, which made her even angrier. "Who am I, Wu Tong? The Iron Lady of Wenxing Town Branch. Why would I be afraid of you?" In the end, Sun Xiaoxuan also followed Wu Tong to the police station. Although she was also very tired and sleepy, and even walking was difficult for her, she still had to leave the hospital and followed them. Before leaving, Wu Tong kindly asked Tang Ying to take a look at Sun Xiaoxuan. Although Sun Xiaoxuan was drugged and his body was a little weak, it was not a big deal. As long as he went back and had a good rest, he would recover by tomorrow morning. During the recording, Sun Xiaoxuan almost fell asleep several times, but she gritted her teeth and insisted. She explained everything clearly, from the bet she made with Pan Zhang a few days ago, to the fact that someone saw Pan Zhang eating with the swimming team, to the swimming competition today. She didn't leave out a single detail. "All right, we've more or less understood the situation. The public will decide who's right and who's wrong. You should go back to school and rest," Wu Tong said as she closed her notebook. "Officer, look, Pan Zhang tried to drug me. Chen Guang is innocent, right?" Sun Xiaoxuan didn't give up. Wu Tong shook her head. "I can't tell you how it'll be handled in the end. In short, you have to believe in the law, okay? Look at you, you can barely keep your eyes open. Why don't you go back to school?" When facing Sun Xiaoxuan, Wu Tong's attitude was much better than when she was talking to Chen Guang. "No, I'm not going back. I'm going to wait for Chen Guang on that chair." Sun Xiaoxuan was stubborn. She got up and sat on a chair in the hall. Then she tilted her head and fell asleep. The girls had no choice. After a brief discussion, one of them stayed with Sun Xiaoxuan, while the others went back to school. Wu Tong could only stare at them, but she couldn't chase them away. It was clear from their attitude that they would only leave after Qin Guang was released. What a headache. She couldn't even go home and sleep. She wanted to see how that kid was doing. Even if he really saved the damsel in distress, she still had to teach him a lesson. Why did he hit someone so hard? Seeing that Wu Tong wanted to go to the detention room again, Wang Long stopped her. Let me go ask him. Wu Tong glared at Wang Long. Why are you stopping me? I'm afraid you'll fight with him again, Wang Long said honestly. Wang Long, let me tell you. You're destined to be alone for life. Even if you think so, don't say it out loud. Don't worry, we already know the truth. I'll control my temper. You must be tired. Go to the lounge and sleep. I'm just going to ask him a few questions and understand the situation. Nothing will go wrong. Wu Tong looked at Wang Long with disdain and promised him again. Wang Long had no choice but to let her go alone. Aunt, I'm really tired. I'll go sleep first. Chapter 53. Chen Guang was the only one in the detention room of the Wenxing Town Subbureau. His phone was confiscated, which made him bored. Fortunately, his drinking cup was still there. The door suddenly opened, and the excessively beautiful policewoman from before walked in. Chen Guang raised his head and glanced at her, then turned his head back and continued to stare at the ceiling, daydreaming. He didn't say anything. He was very tired. Ever since he was locked in the detention room, he had been trying hard to control his mind and not think about meaningless things. He had no choice. Before he understood the omen of the appearance of the heavenly Holy Grail, he had to be a positive young man, lest the world in the cup create some strange test for him. Unfortunately, a person's mind couldn't be easily controlled, especially at such a boring time. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to control his mind. Even though he clearly saw Wu Tong come in, his mind couldn't wrap itself around it, and he didn't want to pay attention to her. His attitude instantly became repulsive in Wu Tong's eyes. Wu Tong also felt strange. Was she fated to be the nemesis of this kid? Otherwise, why would she lose control of her emotions when she saw him? After exchanging a few words with Chen Guang, Wu Tong finally understood why she couldn't maintain a peaceful attitude towards this boy. The reason was simple. This kid was simply stubborn. He lacked the least bit of fear and respect for a policewoman like her. Since Sun Xiaoxuan has already proven that I attacked Pan Jiang to save him, and you've even collected the food on the table as evidence, why don't you let me go and arrest him? Chen Guang was also very unhappy. It wasn't a good idea to be locked up here. What if the Emperor of the Azure appeared and he was daydreaming, and he was locked up in the detention room? Who knew if the retarded heavenly Holy Grail would create a test for him to spend the rest of his life in jail? The old man didn't want to be a jail king. However, this policewoman named Wu Tong didn't have any intention of letting him go. He was very unhappy, very dissatisfied, and very unhappy. No. Although you said so, Pan Jiang did not commit a crime, so we can't arrest him. But you're different. Your actions have already constituted the fact that you've injured someone, so I can't let you go. Everything has to be done according to the law. It's not like what you think. Otherwise, why do you need us policemen? Something's wrong. Why are you interrogating me now? Do I need a brat like you to teach me how to do things? I'm here to tell you. Even if you're in the right, you can't hurt people like that. You've already rendered him powerless to resist, so why did you have to give him the final kick? You have no right to judge whether a person is good or bad, and you have no right to judge him. Do you understand? This is the police's business, not yours. Wu Tong said a lot of things in rapid succession. As she spoke, she slammed the table in the detention room. Chen Guang sneered. Is that so? He didn't rape her and didn't commit a crime, so he was innocent? Do you police have to wait for someone to be raped before you can do anything? The victim has already been harmed, and now you want to seek justice? Then what's the use of keeping you? That was why the world was so dirty and dark. That's why I want to beat him up. Not only that, if I see him again, I want to beat him up. I want to beat him up so that he can't have any bad thoughts about girls in the future. This is called getting rid of evil for the people. Besides, since you said that this is your business, then where were you when Sun Xiaoxuan was unconscious? Can you count on me? If it wasn't me, who would uphold justice for Sun Xiaoxuan? Or do you think she deserved to be defiled by Pan Jiang? At that time, What's the use of arresting Pan Jiang? Moreover, I did knock Pan Jiang down, but at that time, he didn't completely lose the ability to fight back. If I didn't give him the final kick, God knows if he would have kicked my head. You hurt people, and you're still saying that you're in the right. Wu Tong was so angry that she laughed. I hurt people, so I'll pay for it, okay? It's not like he's disabled or something, so I'll just pay for the medical fees. This doesn't constitute a crime, right? Nowadays, are men not allowed to fight? Chen Guang felt that he didn't do anything wrong. He was really tired of this policewoman's preaching. You can beat people just because you have money? You can casually hurt people? What's the use of the law? You don't know how to repent. I'll tell you, even if you have money, I can't let you go, according to Article 26 of the Public Security Administration penalty. I want to detain you for 15 days. I want you to understand, don't be impulsive and disregard the consequences. Don't use your youth as a reason to act recklessly. There are gods 3 feet above you, there are laws 3 feet below you. You've received money, haven't you? You've received money from Pan Jiang's family, haven't you? You want to detain me for 15 days? You're the one who received money. Wu Tong gnashed her teeth. I can't communicate with you. With that, Wu Tong angrily got up, slammed the door and left. Oh, you still want to teach me a lesson? The corner of Qin Guang's mouth rose. From the beginning to the end, he didn't agree with this policewoman's point of view. People with different beliefs can't make plans together. I'm so angry. How could there be such a person? To think that I even wanted to help him get out of this. This person should be locked up forever. Don't let him come out and harm people. Sitting in the office angrily, Wu Tong almost crushed the cup of water she was drinking. Something's wrong. I kept saying that I will do things according to the law. If he really wants to compensate Pan Jiang's medical expenses, I can't lock him up, right? I'm also so angry that I lost my head. If I really do that, wouldn't I be shooting myself in the foot? At this time, her cell phone rang. When she picked it up, it was actually a call from the Wenxing branch bureau chief. Strange, why would that lazy old man call me in the middle of the night? Shouldn't he be watching TV at home? Hello, is this Xiao? Right, I heard you arrested a student? Bureau Chief Ding, you're not going to plead for that kid, are you? Nothing to say. Impossible. I won't let him go today. Wu Tong gritted her teeth and said. She was stubborn like this, not giving face to anyone. At the same time, her impression of Qin Guang dropped by 3 points. She thought that he must be some second-generation official. Unexpectedly, he quickly found Bureau Chief Ding to use his relationship. Xiao, you're right. This kind of violent person should be dealt with harshly. By the way, prepare all the documents and submit them to the prosecutor's office tomorrow. We'll also start a prosecution against him and let him reflect on himself in prison. Who would have thought that Bureau Chief Ding would say something like that? Bureau Chief Ding? Public prosecution? Prison? Isn't this a bit too much? Wu Tong was shocked. Bureau Chief Ding's attitude was the complete opposite of what she thought. He was going to torture that annoying kid to death. Bureau Chief Ding was also puzzled. Didn't you want to strangle him just a second ago? Why is it different now? Although Wu Tong was hot-tempered, she wasn't stupid. She immediately understood that something was wrong. Recalling what Pan Jiang's father said before she left the hospital, she vaguely guessed something. Bureau Chief Ding, is it Pan Jiang's family? Chapter 54. Sigh. What nonsense are you spouting? In short, don't ask too many questions. I'll get Captain Chen to take over the case later. Go home and rest, okay? Chief Ding was a shrewd man. Seeing that Wu Tong wanted to get to the bottom of the matter, he immediately decided to get his confidant to handle the matter. No, this case is mine. I won't give it to anyone. Wu Tong exploded. She couldn't tolerate a single grain of sand in her eyes. Chen Guang did hit someone, but it wasn't to the extent of sending him to jail. He was still a student. Is it me or you who has the final say? Wu Tong. Chief Ding was displeased with Wu Tong's rebuttal. Have I been too lenient with you? You've only been working for 2 to 3 months, so you're a little rash. I understand that, but you have to learn and think more. Do you understand? You can't be willful in your work. You have to listen to the leader's arrangements. I don't understand. I don't understand either. Wu Tong hung up the phone angrily. Looking for connections, right? Pressuring me, right? I won't accept this. Connections? I'll fight it out with you. If it wasn't for today's incident, I would have thought that I only needed to be myself to uphold justice. Now it seems that I have to go with the flow? I won't. She picked up the phone and found a number. After hesitating for a moment, she finally decided to call. She yelled at the person on the phone. She didn't look like she was asking for help at all. Instead, she was throwing a tantrum at the person on the phone. After hanging up, she waited for 15 minutes before Chief Ding called again. This time, his attitude was completely different from before. Little Wu, although work is important, don't tire yourself out. You've handled this case well. Just do it your way. I approve of whatever you want to do. I won't talk any further. My child at home has a problem. I'll go take a look. Chief Ding said a few words and quickly hung up. He was still in a daze. He looked at the call history on his phone with an odd expression. Then he slapped his forehead and muttered to himself, Wu Tong Wu Shan. Am I an idiot? Why didn't I think of that earlier? That scared me. Xiao Wu is really something. If it weren't for today's matter, I don't know how long she would hide it. Thank the heavens, it's not too late to find out. My goodness, if I had told you earlier that your father was Wu Shan, I wouldn't have dared to say such harsh words to you. On the other side, after Wu Tong left, Chen Guang waited for a while and slowly recovered from his uncomfortable state. When he calmed down and figured out some key points, his expression became rather strange. To be honest, he felt a little regretful. It was said that commoners shouldn't fight with officials. Now that he was a prisoner, it seemed that he really shouldn't be so unyielding with the policewoman. If he really offended her, he would be detained for a full 15 days. What would he do then? On the one hand, it might affect his studies, and on the other hand, he was most afraid that the Holy Grail would be taken away. God knows what kind of trouble would happen if the Holy Grail was not by his side. It's all that policewoman's fault. If you weren't so irritable, how could I fight with you? Why is my mouth so cheap? I can't control my own master's temper. Well, now that she's gone, it seems like regret is useless. The fluorescent lights in the detention room made a sizzling sound. The lights flickered from time to time. For a moment, Chen Guang felt very cold and lonely. On this side, Wu Tong didn't hesitate to use his own connections to deal with Bureau Chief Ding. On second thought, why did he help that annoying brat to do this? He definitely wouldn't appreciate it. But I can't tell him that just now, someone used his connections to send you to jail, and I used my connections to help you block it. You have to accept my favor and treat me better. Once he said this, his heroic words of doing everything according to the law would be shattered. He would definitely be despised and ridiculed by that sharp-tongued guy. Wu Tong's heart was filled with unwillingness. It was as if a crazy cat was scratching at her. No, he won't accept it even if I help him. I can't just let him go like this. Even if I treat you well, even if I don't send you to jail, I still have to let you reflect on yourself in the detention room for 15 days. This can be considered a compromise. That's right. I'll do it like this. Why are you here again? Chen Guang looked at Wu Tong, who pushed open the door and put on a cold face. The next moment, he wanted to slap himself. He forced an ugly smile on his face. I didn't mean it that way. Sister Wu Tong, why are you running around so late at night? It's not good for a girl's skin to sleep late. You're so pretty, you should take good care of your skin. Chen Guang was completely convinced by himself. How could I say something so mushy? Wu Tong's mouth was wide open. She looked at Chen Guang as if she had seen a ghost. After a while, she said, if it wasn't for that disgusting expression on your face, I would have thought you were replaced by a leopard cat. Did you take the wrong medicine? You're the one who took the wrong medicine. Your whole family took the wrong medicine. Chen Guang felt sorry for his terrible acting skills. He also expressed his disdain for this woman's ability to spit out dirty words. Fine, it's much more pleasing to my ears when you say that. You can scold me and I'll feel more at ease. I'm here to inform you of your punishment. Just like I said before, according to Article 26 of the Public Security Administration Punishment Act, you'll be detained for 15 days and fined 1,000 yuan. Also, the hospital's estimated treatment bill is out. It's 10,000 yuan. Add it all up, and you'll have to pay 11,000 yuan. Then, go to the detention center and reflect on your life. Wu Tong sat down. 15 days for Real? It can't be that serious, right? This time, it was Qin Guang's turn to be dumbfounded. After all, he was only a student. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't flustered. Being detained for 15 days and fined 11,000 yuan, he felt the pinch. Of course, if he was given another chance to choose, he still wouldn't be soft-hearted to Pan Jiang. Money was one thing, and principles were another. Now you're scared? Originally, it wasn't that serious, but considering that your attitude towards pleading guilty was extremely terrible and that the circumstances of your assault were generally serious, I'll compromise for you and only lock you up for 15 days. Wu Tong saw that this brat was terrified, and her heart felt good. Even the way she spoke became more amiable. My attitude was good. Sis, don't be like this. Let's talk this out. Qin Guang was really scared. Now you know that you're wrong? It's too late. You won't give up until you see the yellow river, and you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Don't look so sad. I'm doing this for your own good. I want you to remember not to be so impulsive in the future. Don't be afraid. The detention center isn't as amazing as the rumors say. Maybe you'll thank me after many years. I gave you a head-on blow when you're most likely to go astray. Who knows, you might be enlightened after you come out. Wu Tong said with a smile. Enlightened? It should be the 3 flowers at one's prominence. It's the penetration of a chrysanthemum multiplied by 3. I don't want to be detained. Chen Guang held his head with both hands, feeling remorseful and hateful. No, I need to drink some water to calm down. He picked up the cup, intending to take a sip of the cold and tasteless tea. Little brat. You're in trouble, right? Why don't you ask me to help you? What he was afraid of really happened. At this critical moment, Emperor of the Azure appeared again. Chapter 55. What are you doing? Why did you come out? Chen Guang roared in his heart. As he was too nervous, he didn't even notice that Emperor of the Azure's situation was different from usual. She didn't pull him into the world in the cup, but her voice was ringing in his heart. Emperor of the Azure knew exactly what was going on in Qin Guang's mind. She laughed weirdly and said, Guess. Her tone was very wrong, as if she was a bad girl delinquent. Guess your sister. Don't mess around. This isn't the time, it really isn't the time. Don't give me a test of the world in the cup now. I won't accept it. Chen Guang clenched his fists tightly. His face turned pale and his body trembled slightly. Wu Tong, who was sitting in front of him, was shocked by his expression. What are you doing? Are you having a seizure? Don't play tricks on me. Although I haven't been working for long, I have a good eye for people. Don't think that you can get away with 15 days of detention by pretending to be sick. Believe it or not, I'll give you another 5 days. Chen Guang was fighting with Emperor of the Azure in his heart. At the same time, he had to deal with Wu Tong. It was very tiring. He stuttered, Officer Wu, I didn't pretend to be sick. I just felt a little cold all of a sudden. That's right, a little cold. Really, don't detain me, okay? I promise to be a good person in the future and not be so impulsive. I was being a good Samaritan. Isn't that what society advocates now? Do you want me to become a cold-blooded person who doesn't even care when an old person falls? Hearing this, Wu Tong calmed down a little, and her complacency returned. All right. I said it's detention, but it won't be too hard on you. At most, I'll allow you to use the computer in the detention center. Just treat it as finding a place to rest quietly for a few days. Don't you college students like to skip classes? I'm helping you find a legitimate reason to skip classes. If your school asks about it, I'll help you explain and absolve you. You won't get the award for being a good Samaritan, but you won't be punished by the school. My treatment is already very good, so don't waste my time. If you're a man, you should be more straightforward. If you've done something wrong, you have to admit it. A man should take responsibility for what he's done, right? This policewoman was so stubborn that Qin Guang felt a headache coming on, but there was nothing he could do. He could only try to communicate with the Emperor of the Azure in his mind. My dear Empress, don't joke with me. This is really not the right time. While talking to Emperor of the Azure, Chen Guang quickly went through what he was thinking in his mind just now. Trying to convince Wu Tong? That's not bad. At least let me become a better lobbyist, right? Winning a debate competition or becoming a negotiation expert was not a bad idea either. He could more or less earn some money. Am I worried about being detained? He was going to become a Hell King. Oh no. Another one. What else am I thinking? Something was wrong. What I was most worried about just now was that I would become a three-flower at one's prominence after entering the detention center. A chrysanthemum multiplied by 3? Holy shit. Swish, 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 swish. 10,000 alpacas whizzed past Qin Guang's heart, trampling on his wounded soul into pieces. Not good. Oh no. Things were getting serious. If I really did that, wouldn't I have to become King Billy? This was too terrifying. Shaking his head fiercely, Chen Guang hurriedly threw out this terrible idea of destroying his worldview, but it was already too late. It was discovered by the rogue god emperor. Not the right time? But this matter is not up to you, nor is it up to me. Didn't you say that I was unreasonable with the Holy Grail? Now that I'm out, it's time for you to take the test. Right now, the colored glass deity emperor was basically a roundworm in Qin Guang's stomach. She knew what Qin Guang was thinking in his heart, and she would say whatever he was afraid of. Let me see, what were you thinking just now? The Holy Grail has been found. Little brat, there's a big surprise. Emperor of the Azure deliberately dragged out the word big. It was really meaningful. Chen Guang leaned against the chair weakly. His hemorrhoids seemed to be acting up again, and his chrysanthemum was faintly itching. His eyes were dull, and he shook his head powerlessly. 2 streams of turbid tears flowed down. No, this sentence was not only said in his heart, but also said out loud. Wu Tong shrank back. Hey, you're a man, isn't it just detention? Was there a need to put on such an expression as if his heart was extinguished? Why are you crying? Chen Guang waved his hand fiercely. You win. You don't understand. You don't understand the pain in my heart. You don't understand my injury. You don't want to see you. After saying that, he slumped his head on the back of the chair and pretended to be dead. He was not in the mood to talk to Wu Tong anymore. He must think of a way to convince Emperor of the Azure. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ha! Look at how scared you are. I'm dying of laughter. Hey, you're the chosen savior of the Holy Grail. Can you at least show some courage? I'm just joking with you. Actually, the energy of the Holy Grail hasn't fully recovered yet. I really didn't expect to scare you to this extent. You're such a coward, and you're making me, the Emperor of a generation, very embarrassed. If the countless godly monarchs, godly venerables, godly kings, godly generals, godly soldiers, and ordinary gods in the endless divine realm knew that Emperor of the Azure, who is ranked top 10 among the tens of thousands of emperor gods in the endless divine realm, had found such a weak savior, these inferior gods would at least laugh themselves to death. Where am I supposed to put my face? Emperor of the Azure's loud laughter suddenly rang in Qin Guang's heart. At the same time, the woman's image gradually appeared in Qin Guang's mind, from a blur to a clear image. Qin Guang did not deliberately recall her appearance. It was obvious that she had entered Qin Guang's mind. At that moment, Emperor of the Azure was still wearing the same ancient dress as before. However, it looked a little strange. Her ancient dress was different from before. It was slightly transparent. It was obvious that the divine power that Qin Guang had consumed during the Dota test had not been fully recovered. However, this woman seemed to have learned her lesson. She deliberately distributed her divine power unevenly and covered all the key parts. Qin Guang could only see the naughty little belly button on her waist at most. Suddenly realizing that he had been fooled, Qin Guang flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Are you done? Is it fun to tease me? Can you be a little more serious? You're a god emperor after all. How can I trust you when you're not serious at all? How can I follow you to do great things with peace of mind? If I fail the test of the heavenly Holy Grail, everyone will be finished. This is definitely because of your poor guidance and improper attitude." Ever since he came into contact with Emperor of the Azure, Qin Guang was extremely disappointed in her. This was completely different from the old grandpas or god emperors that he had read about in the online novels in the past. The god emperors in the stories were all heroes who looked down on the world. Every move they made could affect the laws of origin. When they spoke, their words were laws. With a wave of their hands, they could create or shatter the void of the infinite world, causing the birth and destruction of countless universes. That was what she said too. She boasted about the power of her father, the master god of chaos, to the point that it almost broke through Qin Guang's imagination. Qin Guang himself had also felt a little of the majestic pressure of the endless divine realm from the divine power that she inadvertently revealed. But why was it that now, no matter how he looked at it, this Emperor of the Azure was simply a joke? How am I supposed to happily show off and fly together with you? Upon hearing this, the Emperor of the Azure in his mind suddenly stopped smiling and stood up straight. She smiled devilishly. "Is that so? You want to see what I really look like? All right, I'll let you see what a truly powerful God Emperor looks like. You'd better be mentally prepared." As Emperor of the Azure said this, a strange smile appeared on her face. For a moment, Qin Guang's hair stood on end. He subconsciously felt an extreme sense of danger. By the time he wanted to change his mind, it was already too late. Chapter 56. The next moment, the image of the Emperor of the Azure in his mind had completely changed. This was a complete change, leaving no trace of the previous one. A second ago, she was still a hopelessly funny non-mainstream girl in ancient clothes. The next second, she had become a terrifying woman who was thousands of times more domineering than the martial Emperor Wuxia on TV. Her appearance and clothes had not changed at all, but she had really become a completely different person. A terrible momentum rose from her body, as if it was going to break through the endurance of Qin Guang's mind. She was still only 1.7 meters tall, but in Qin Guang's mind, it was as if he was facing a giant whose top could not be seen. She just glanced at Qin Guang indifferently, and Qin Guang's mind suddenly froze. This was not a simple stagnation. It was like a cup of boiling water was suddenly thrown into a space of absolute zero, completely stagnating and freezing. In ancient times, when the inferior saw the superior, they would involuntarily have the idea of kneeling down because of the other party's power and prestige. But at this time, Qin Guang did not have this feeling, because he could not think at all. Not only that, but perhaps he only held on for a 10,000th of a second. His mind was like an ice sculpture that had been hit hard, and it was about to crack. All the images and things in Qin Guang's mind gradually cracked as his mind was gradually broken, and cracks like the broken space appeared. How is it? Does this emperor's original appearance still enter your eyes? Finally, the Emperor of the Azure spoke. Words flew out of her mouth one by one, and turned into huge runes that could support the sky and the earth, which stabilized Qin Guang's sea of consciousness that was about to break. While she was speaking, she kept deliberately restraining her momentum that belonged to the divine emperor. In his mind, Qin Guang's body trembled, and he finally recovered his mind. However, what he saw and experienced at that moment was deeply embedded in his memory like a knife carving on his heart. It was so deep and indelible. His mind spun fiercely, and his thoughts slowly thawed. After a long while, he finally understood the meaning of Glazed Deity Emperor's simple question. After holding it in for a long time, a sentence finally popped out of his mouth. It's simply amazing. That's right. The smile on the Emperor of the Azure's face was like 100 flowers blooming between heaven and earth, just like the spring breeze caressing one's face and the warm winter sun. It was a completely subconscious action that made Chen Guang close his eyes in enjoyment. In her true state, the smile of the Emperor of the Azure could make countless existences below the ultimate god level who were lucky enough to see her smile comprehend the power of laws. When she was angry, she could change the color of heaven and earth in the endless divine realm, lose control of laws, and annihilate tens of thousands of gods. As a mere mortal, Chen Guang only squinted his eyes after being charmed by her smile. It was already the result of the Emperor of the Azure deliberately restraining herself and controlling her aura pressure to a level that Chen Guang could bear. Bang! Hearing those words, Chen Guang felt a knock on his forehead. How is it, little brat? You still say that I don't look like a divine emperor? You still say that I'm not serious? You know nothing. I'm taking care of a poor mortal like you. I'm forcing myself to control my state of mind to the most lively and cheerful level of a young girl in this world. Otherwise, I'll accidentally glare at you and you'll die. Who can I reason with then? Look, I'm so considerate, and I have such a good attitude. That's right. Don't be fooled by my terrifying appearance just now. In fact, I didn't even use a bit of my divine power. I only brought out my aura and displayed the divine might of my true form. That's all. As for my current divine power, I'm not sure how many % of my true state it is. If I were to count all the digits after the decimal point, I'm afraid I'd need a whole day to count. After the Emperor of the Azure knocked on Chen Guang's forehead, she put her hands behind her back and said proudly. Chen Guang was speechless and secretly cursed. What do you mean by wronging yourself? I think you're enjoying it. But then again, it was better this way. If it turned into what it was just now, he would not be able to do anything the next time he entered the cup realm. He would just lie on the ground and pretend to be dead from the beginning to the end. At this moment, he had no idea that he almost died just now. Although it was thrilling and exciting, after such a mess, Chen Guang's understanding of the Emperor of the Azure had indeed deepened and changed a lot. His attitude was slightly better than before. All right. Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty. My realm is low, my level is low, and my level is low. Speaking of which, since the heavenly Holy Grail hasn't been fully restored, why are you in the mood to come out today? Chen Guang decided to change the topic. The Emperor of the Azure rolled her eyes. Isn't it because you were scared to death of being detained just now? I thought the sky was falling down and I hurried out to check on the situation. By the way, don't call me Your Majesty, it sounds too vulgar. This Empress shall bestow upon you a privilege that countless gods in the entire endless divine realm dream of. Little brat, you can directly call me by my name, just call me Azure. Hello, Azure will do. Azure, it's fine as long as you don't have it. Don't act cute. I don't fall for it. After another knock on the head, Chen Guang became well-behaved. Azure, is this okay? As he spoke, he also despised this woman in his heart. You call me Your Majesty, then 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 you call me Your Majesty. You should at least give me a standard for how you refer to yourself. It's tiring to communicate with you like this. Fortunately, she didn't call me Your Majesty. Your Majesty is really disappointed in you. Us gods go into seclusion for billions of years. You've only been detained for 15 days. Oh my God, only 15 days? What are you afraid of? Chen Guang, what will come sooner or later. Don't look at me like that. I know what you're thinking. I'm teasing you on purpose. You're so boring. Also, ever since I got to know you, why do I feel that the number of billions has become like cabbages? We mortals only use the number of billions to describe the number of little tadpoles every day. Also, the gods going into seclusion and me are two different things, alright? How long can a mortal's lifetime be? How many 15 days can I have? Besides, isn't it because you and the heavenly Holy Grail appeared without any warning? You tricked me the last time. I'm just afraid that the next time you guys come, you're going to train my ability to stay in prison. Also, I still have things to do outside. I'm extremely busy. How can I stay in the detention center for 15 days? This matter is as serious as the sky falling down, alright? Lu Li, put yourself in my shoes and think for me. Although Azure's words weren't pleasant to the ears, Chen Guang could hear a hint of hope in them. She definitely had a way. That's right, the Divine Emperor. Such a heaven-defying Divine Emperor. Wouldn't a small matter like not being detained be a piece of cake? You really don't want to be locked up? You definitely want to go out? Is it that important? Azure started to get serious. Chen Guang nodded. Heavier than Mount Tai. Heavier than what I want. Chapter 57. Alright, I'll help you this time. How annoying. I haven't even finished exploring your Earth. I originally planned to accumulate some divine power to surf the internet, but now my plan has to be delayed again. Alright, if a QQ account called Lioli adds you as a friend, remember not to reject it. It's me. Open your eyes and look at the pretty policewoman in front of you. I'm going to get to work. Lioli took a deep breath and disappeared from the bottom of Chen Guang's heart in a flash. Little brat, watch carefully. I'm going to use my power. Emperor of the Azure's voice sounded in Chen Guang's heart. Chen Guang was looking forward to it. Let me see what the Emperor of the Azure is capable of. What is she going to do? Is she going to wipe out this branch office? Don't scare me. Chen Guang opened his eyes in horror and saw Wu Tong's big and beautiful eyes. Wu Tong was a little worried because he pretended to be dead. In her eyes, Chen Guang was still the little flower that symbolized the future of the motherland. If this young man's will was so bad that he broke down because of being detained for 15 days, she would owe him a lot. So she quickly moved closer to see what was going on. If Chen Guang still didn't open his eyes, she would pull his eyelids open. At this time, Wu Tong's big eyes were less than 5 centimeters away from Chen Guang's pupils. Twinkle, 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 as bright as the stars. Her eyes were really beautiful. This sentence popped up in Chen Guang's mind. In the next instant, Wu Tong blinked. Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. Why did her eyes change in the blink of an eye? What was this? The way Wu Tong looked at him made Chen Guang recall the most mushy Korean drama he had ever seen. The way the female lead looked at the male lead who was about to ascend to heaven. That affectionate gaze, those tear-filled eyes, those eyeballs that seemed to want to suck him in. Damn it. Impossible. Kid, don't worry. When this grandaunt makes a move, she never misses. Now this little policewoman has fallen deeply in love with you. At this time, even if you asked her to die for you, she wouldn't even blink. Just wait and see, she's going to start crying and apologizing to you, saying that she shouldn't have tried to detain you, and of course you won't be detained. This empress is a little tired, so I'll go back and rest first. You handle the rest yourself. Lioli's naughty voice came and quickly disappeared. Hey, you can't play like this. Today is the first time I met this policewoman, and you already gave me this. I can't take it. If you're like this, how am I supposed to enjoy the pleasure of picking up girls? You want others to fall in love with me so easily? You should at least give me some mental preparation. What's the principle behind this move? Explain it to me clearly. Wait a minute. That's not what I want. Indeed, Wu Tong had fallen deeply in love with the man in front of her. There was no reason at all. Love does not need a reason. In her past life, they had brushed past each other thousands of times, but in this life, they were on the same boat together, waiting for their reunion in the next life. It was said that love at first sight was the most romantic, but Wu Tong felt that her current love was thousands of times more profound than love at first sight. Even if this man didn't say a word, just by looking at his face and smelling the unwarranted scent coming from his body, she could still be ecstatic and fall in love with him to the point of life and death. Heavens! What did I just do? I actually tried to put the person I love the most into detention. How could I do that? How could I think like that? For him, even if I have to go through water and tread on fire, Even if I have to pierce through the sky and crush the earth, I'm willing. My light. How could I hurt you like that? I'm sorry. My heart, it hurts so much. It's like being cut by 1,000 knives. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so guilty. I'm in so much pain that I can't breathe. As Wu Tong spoke, her hands suddenly reached out to hold Qin Guang's face. Her breath smelled like orchids, and the lotus fragrance from her mouth blew on Qin Guang's face and into Qin Guang's nose. Her body moved closer and closer, wishing that she could ram her head into Qin Guang's body. As she spoke, her voice became choked with sobs. It was so sad, so self-reproachful, and she wished that she could commit suicide to apologize to the heavens. You should be more normal. Even Korean dramas aren't as mushy as you. Qin Guang desperately leaned back to avoid Wu Tong's face. Finally, the chair lost its balance. Qin Guang fell on his back, his body hitting the ground, and Wu Tong pressed on top of him. It's over. I'm going to be raped. Help. This plot isn't going right. My light. How could I let you fall? I've hurt you over and over again. I can't repay what I owe you in this lifetime. Wu Tong continued to press on top of Qin Guang, but this time, she frantically pulled Qin Guang's head, as if this fall would seriously injure Qin Guang. As she spoke, she hammered her chest. She was in so much pain that her heart was about to break. You just wanted to detain me, not send me to the crematorium. What kind of damage is that? I'm just lying on the ground, not pushing you off a cliff. Don't make such a trivial matter into something as serious as the end of the world. At this moment, Qin Guang finally understood what Lioli meant when she said that she was about to cry and apologize to him. I'm a little drunk. Facing this situation, what should the old man do? Seeing that he didn't move, Wu Tong felt even more guilty. She actually raised her hand, wanting to slap herself. I'm a despicable woman. Are you done? Qin Guang grabbed her hand. If you're done, then save it for me. I just don't want to be detained. I don't think it's worth it to be detained for hurting Pan Jiang. Why don't you just let me go? Can you not cause so much trouble? If you're a little more normal, we can still be friends. Wu Tong smiled through her tears. Really? Can you really forgive me? As long as I can be friends with you, I'm satisfied. I don't dare to ask for more. Even if I can just hide in the crowd and stare at you from afar, that's my greatest happiness. Let you go, I'll let you go right now. Even if the sky falls, I'm willing to help you carry it. Sigh, my head hurts so much. Qin Guang felt like his liver was about to explode. At least Wu Tong finally got up. There was no suspense about what happened next. Wu Tong only used 5 minutes to withdraw the detention decision that she had originally submitted. It was obvious that she had lied to Qin Guang. However, Qin Guang couldn't relax at all. Officer Wu was standing at the side, looking at him with a frightening gaze. Why do I feel that if this situation continues, I'll be in a worse state than being locked up for 15 days? If I knew things would turn out like this, I might as well go to jail for 15 days. Who the hell wants a lunatic to pester me like this? You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.